just a bloke in a bar.
We've got an announcement. After game 2, we are going live on YouTube from here. As soon as kickoff finishes and as it all kind of dies down, we will be going live from here to review the game on YouTube. And then obviously it'll all be released on audio and everything like that. Obviously we did the live show before last week. We're doing it after this week, after the game. So that would be, what do you reckon, like 9:50, 10 o'clock-ish?
Just up to 10.
So as soon as the game finishes, put on the YouTube. We'll be here reviewing the game, a really deep dive. And it'll be special guest with Mitchell Pearce. That's right. It'll be myself, Timmy, Mitchell Pearce, and Matty. Guru's obviously got his own stuff that he does for Origin. And Hammy, you will be in Melbourne.
Roving reporter.
But we will be calling Hammy. We'll be calling him from the stadium. Give us the feel from it all.
If the internet works, pray for the internet. I'll be there.
Alrighty, now it is time to face a bit of music, brought to you by Sportsbet. Give us a follow on the feed. Give Hammy a follow. Great new feature. Basically, you can follow someone, see what they're betting on, copy their bets. Takes 2 seconds, and it's a bit of fun. So give us a follow. Bloke is currently the #1 followed on the feed right now. So let's keep it up. Let's keep going. Let's keep dominating and give us a follow on the feed.
Great time to follow Denon as well as he starts to get into his work at the pointy end of the T20 World Cup as well. Never been a better time to get on board if you're not following him already. So
look, listen, we've already said this. We are a cricket podcast that does dabbles in rugby league.
Yep, this is off season.
This is off season for us. The real, analysis. It comes when cricket comes.
Yep.
So give us a
patient
follow.
analysis, fans. Yeah.
Alrighty, what do we got? Let's play some music.
Let's do it very quickly as well. Mark Hughes Foundation, great, campaign as it is each year. Sportsbet tipped in $1,000 for every try over the weekend.
Ooh, yeah.
66 tries scored. So thank you, players, for getting involved and making sure we had to put in a nice big donation. So over the course of the time that it's been running now, we're up at almost $550,000 we've tipped in. So
how good!
And that's all. That's on the players for getting out there and scoring plenty of tries. So good stuff. All right, face the music. We're going to go through the results. If you're just joining us you didn't hear last week's show. A little bit of a tweak in the punishment at the moment. Jerry Seinfeld was in town last night. If you missed out on tickets, don't panic because someone on the panel is going to be making you laugh. Hopefully, telling a joke at the end of the segment. If they make everyone else on the panel laugh, they get a bonus point next week, which Timmy successfully did last week. Well done, Timmy.
It was 2 bonus points, wasn't it? I'm going to need everyone from this week.
Well, Denon pushed for 2, but then when he found out you Googled it, it went back to 1. So originality gets you.
I'm in strife.
Speaks dividends. All right. We'll get into it. Sharks 28 defeated by the Dolphins 30, the battle of the big fish. Everyone had the Sharks head-to-head. Rue, myself, and somehow Kempy, who didn't submit any lines, he ended up with the Dolphins with the 9.5 start as well. So congratulations. 2 points to us off the bat.
Me and Matty got that for you. We thought you'd go Dolphins with the start.
Appreciate it, boys.
Yeah. So 1 point for each of us, and the other two, Timmy and Matty, you had the Sharks and the Sharks covering, which obviously didn't happen. So no points there. The next game, not much better for most of the panel. Everyone had Canberra winning and covering the 2.5. They lost 16-34. Rue had the Cowboys with the start, the only person to take away a point from the first Friday night game. Well done, Rue.
Thank you.
The main event on Friday night, South 22 defeat the Broncos 12. Matty and myself know a club on our knees when we see it. We had the South Sydney Rabbitohs head-to-head. 2 points for us. The rest of you had the Broncos winning and covering, so no points for the rest of you, unfortunately. We get into Super Saturday. This was really one of those where will you when kind of games. I was right behind the Hey Thurston bloke. I know where I was. I'll never forget it. Myself and Matty, we both get rugby league. We both took the Tigers head-to-head. 2 points for us. Everybody else had the Titans winning and covering. Egg on your face. No points for anybody else. Not the best start really by anyone to this round, because when we get to the Wars Storm game, Wars 24 defeated by Storm 38. You guys all had the Wars 1-12. I had the Storm 1-12, so I got the head-to-head. I missed the margin. I still get a point there. 2 points all round when we get to the last game on Saturday night. Eels 18 defeated by the Chooks 28. We all had the Chooks winning and covering the 5.5, so 2 points all round there. Sunday starts to get a little bit interesting here. Manly 30 defeated by the Dargans 14. I took the Dargans, so miss out. The only person who missed out on points. Everyone else had Manly head-to-head and covering the 6.5 point line for 2 points, except for Rue. He had the Dargans with the start, so just 1 point for Rue. And as we round it out, 2 points all round again. Panthers 26 defeat Knights 18. Everyone had Penrith winning and the Knights with the 11.5 start. So 2 points for everybody there. How did we finish? Matthew and myself, 10 points. You guys crack double figures. Get around us.
boys.
Then we have Denon and Rue on 7 points. Well done.
Thank you.
And then we had Timmy on 6 points. But he did tell that joke that made us laugh last week. So he gets the bonus point, brings him back to 7. And he also begged with me at the start of the show not to make him tell another joke this week because he doesn't have one. So I'm happy to let him. I'm happy to let it slide. It's down to you two guys to tell a joke, Denon and Rue. So if you wouldn't mind rocking off.
Oh, mate, me and Tim do a rock off every week on Beers and Break Evens on a part of our show. I've lost 7 in a row.
No way.
I'm in a huge drought at the moment.
A rare dub for me of late.
All right.
When Scissors,
paper, rock. Scissors, paper, rock.
Oh,
out of my brain.
One for the ages.
Scissors, paper, rock.
Oh, Rue. All right, without further ado, I'll play you in. Shout out to Jerry Seinfeld, and when you're ready.
All right. So, boys, I have this mate who every week seems to have a new lady friend. I never know how he manages to do it. Just every week, new girl hanging off him. And I put him aside one day and I said, mate, what's your secret? How do you go about it? He goes, mate, I've actually got a secret weapon. He goes, I've actually got 5 penises. And I went, oh, my God, well, that's unbelievable. I go, your undies must fit you like a glove.
Lovely stuff from you there,
thank
Rue.
you.
That'll be a bonus point on Rue's score next week for those playing at home.
Yeah, wow.
It's about as 2 points.
That's
I think.
disgusting.
I did
but
ask for
also
a joke, though, not a personal story.
Oh, far out. That's good from you, Rue. Love that. Love that. Okay, that's Face the Music brought to you by Sports Bet. Oh, lucky you come here for the rugby league analysis and not the jokes. Not the jokes. Let's get into Team of the Week. Straight into it. At number 1, hotly contested, Hammer. But Hammer obviously had that incredible match-winning try. But with everything going on, with all the pressure and the headlines, Latrell Mitchell is at 1. At 2, we've got Coates and Tupou. Sorry, just wait a sec. No. Yeah, we got To'o and Tupou. It's got Coates here. But yeah, at number 2, it's To'o. At number 5, it's Tupou. At 3 and 4, our centres are Farmworth and Olam. At 6 and 7, Nikorima and Hughes. At 8, Stefano. 9, Cook. 10, Cotter. 11, Olakawatu. 12, Crichton. 13, Kolamatangi. Has he been... I think he's been in Team of the Week ever since moving to 13, pretty much.
3-peat, confirmed.
Wow. 14, Cherry Evans. Could have easily been 7, but we got him on the bench at 14. At 15, Nathan Brown. 16, Nikora from the Sharkies. And at 17, Katoa from the Storm. That is your Team of the Week. Brought to you by Bloke Beer. Make sure to grab a case of Bloke Beer. Beer for blokes to turn up. Or if you want to grab a hoodie from bloke.shop, we've got maroon hoodie, maroon shirt and blue shirts on bloke.shop. Now let's get to our player of the week. Our hungriest player of the week, brought to you by our friends at Menulog. Look, this guy, I could not be happier giving him hungriest player because I feel like we've been waiting for this game for a very long time. He was absolutely outstanding and showed you, sometimes you always talk about potential and will they ever reach it. This was genuinely a game of showing you just how high this guy's potential is. Our hungriest player, brought to you by Menulog, is Stefano Uto Ikamanu. That is right. Use code Stefano, STEFANO, for $7 off your order this week on Menulog. If you don't have the app, download it. You get discounts every single week. Use code Stefano for $7 off your order this week. But Stefano, I thought he was outstanding. I mean, pretty much, I don't think the Tigers win that game without him. And he really did show you, to be honest, a lot of the runs he was taking and the way he was playing, it looked a lot like Payne Haas, if I'm being honest. Like, He'd been compared to Payne Haas a few years ago, and granted, he's got a ways to go to get to Payne Haas, but that's the kind of damage he can do. That's the kind of impact he can have as a front rower. It was the best game I've seen Stefano play, and now the standard has been set. Look, does he need to play like that every single week? No, not necessarily, but he knows he can impact games now. He needs to be close to that or thereabouts each week going forward, because that is what he can offer as one of the best young forwards coming through at the moment in the NRL.
Something special, Hammy, about a West Tigers front rower standing up at Leichhardt?
Absolutely. The vibe, the morale was very high. Of course, Leichhardt saved last week as well. But when the game was there to be won, particularly in his second stint, I think he was outstanding. He really kind of lived up to a lot of the hype that's sort of been around him for a little while. So easily his best game of the year, and deserving Hungry's Player of the Week for sure.
Mate, some of his runs, he was just like bowling people over.
Yeah.
It's just like, if you can find a way to just, whatever happened that day for you to play like that, if you can just replicate that each week, you will be unstoppable.
If you can find the consistency, the ceiling is so high.
So
it's
high.
Crazy.
Yeah, mate, over 200 metres, 31 tackles without a miss in this one. And to come at a time where the Tigers are so short on forwards, like they've lost Papali'i, they've lost Johnny Bateman, they're light on. So despite still being pretty early on in his career, he did need to step up for this pack, and he did it in tremendous fashion. So as you said, Kempy, let's just see it back to back, and let's see the three-peat. We want to see this week in, week out with Stefano, because as you mentioned, the ceiling, he has the potential to be one of the best props in the game, but we need to see it week to week.
Yeah, so really, really exciting. Now, the evidence is there. You know, there's no more. I haven't seen a game where he's fully taken it by the scruff of the neck the way he did on the weekend. Like, he genuinely took responsibility and said, no, it's on me to turn this around, and he did that. So really, really exciting for Stefano. I'm not sure where he'll end up, but the good thing is now he's done it in NRL. It's about do it each week now going forward. So our hungriest player, it is Stefano, brought to you by our partners at Menulog. A massive, massive thank you to Menulog for supporting the platform. And guys, if you're going to order food to your house, do it with Menulog. They support us, plus they give you discounts each week. So download the app, order through Menulog, support people that support us. Use code Stefano for $7 off this week. Alrighty, let's get into the round review. It's going to be a little bit shorter this week, guys, because obviously we've already done the Origin stuff. But we'll try to get through as much detail as we can for each game. Alrighty, Dolphins defeat the Sharkies 30-28. What a performance. I mean, they come out the first half and blow the Sharks out of the water. No pun intended.
Pun intended.
Sorry, was intended. Sometimes I just get ahead of myself. They blow them out of the water. Sharkies fight really well to get back into the match, but the Dolphins, the hammer, they ended up winning by 2 points, but it really was the hammer try that essentially won it for him. It was one of the best tries you're going to see at NRL level. It was absolutely outstanding. And that's why the hammer is our LDV T60 power play of the week. The LDV T60 has 160 kilowatts of grunt, which makes it one of the most powerful utes in its class. Auto from 38990 drive away for ABN holders, 7-year or 200,000 kilometre warranty, whichever occurs first. At that price, why go secondhand when you can have a brand new LDV? Boys, the hammer. Speak to me.
That try was unbelievable, wasn't it? And I sat back and I watched it a few times on replay, then got out the phone and watched it a few times there. Just incredible. And then, mate, the thing that shocked me the most, did you see what Wayne Bennett said after the game? Wayne Bennett, who just refuses to give anyone a compliment, just plays everything down. He pretty much just looked down the barrel of the camera and said, when the Dolphins are playing, you can't afford to not be watching. I've never really heard him say anything like that. And this is round 15. It's not grand final. It's not job done or anything like that. He was just, I think even he was just blown away. Like, I don't know if how many times he's seen something like that.
I don't know if it was him or someone else, but they mentioned, like, it's the closest thing, like, to Renoff that he's kind of...
Yeah, I think it was him.
I think it might have been Wayne. We're talking about Steve Renoff here. Like, to get compared to him, unbelievable. The Pearl, gliding across the field, incredible stuff. Timmy, what do you reckon, mate?
Just watching him, he moves quicker sideways than most players do running in a straight line.
So good.
His ability to be running that sort of overs line, and he just kind of I don't know how to explain it, but glides laterally. It's almost like he picks up pace.
Yeah.
I do not know how he does it, and trying to defend him one-on-one must be a nightmare.
Yeah.
Just him and maybe Reece Walsh, probably the only ones who can score that try in the NRL at the moment.
Well, I think Reece Walsh probably gets caught.
Yeah.
Because Reece Walsh has a really fast first 10.
Yeah.
But his top speed actually isn't like that quick, relatively speaking.
Yeah.
Whereas Hammer, his top speed is unbelievable.
He's probably the only player in the NRL right now that can score that try.
Yeah, because it took a top speed that was incredible. Look, maybe Reece could have, because that last little goosey at the end, obviously, while she can do that. But Hammer really is this kind of unique frame. Like, he's not huge, but he's also not small. And he's interesting about Hammer, and we spoke about it on Pucker Up Boys on Friday, is he's this kind of like, he's in between, you know, your Latrells, your Greg Inglis, and Dylan Edwards. He's kind of like in the middle. So he's not necessarily the craziest like ball player like a Reece Walsh, but at the same time, he's just as electric on his feet as Reece Walsh is. He probably doesn't have as many efforts, like repeat efforts of runs as an Edwards, but at the same time, he probably gets a tiny little bit more involved than Latrell Mitchell. Like, he really is his own version of fullback. You know, you don't really look at him and go, like, you look at Edwards and you go, oh, that's the Tedesco, the Minicello style of fullback. You look at Latrell, he's like the Greg Inglis kind of big style of fullback. Whereas the Hammer, he is kind of like a bit of a mixture of everything.
Unicorn.
He's a unicorn. There you go. Someone had a good shout. Brett Mullins, they were saying, moves a bit like a bit like Brett Mullins.
Honestly, you laugh at this because the Raiders, Mullins has Raiders bias as well, but Reece Robinson gliding across a football
He was quick,
pitch.
yeah.
It was the same thing. Like, I'm not putting Reece Robinson in the same football category, obviously, as Hamiso, but the way they move, it's like they just float when they run.
Mate, his running technique, how his body just saying stow, like it's not all over the shop. It's like his core strength must be through the roof.
He's so balanced when he moves.
So balanced. I always talk about how I believe that was like Greg Inglis's most underrated facet was his balance when he ran, because he could sometimes fend you from across his body. You know how balanced you have to be to be able to reach across your body whilst you're at full speed and fend someone?
Like that try that GI scored against the Bunnies, how he didn't fall over
Against
on
the
3
Broncos.
occasions. Broncos, sorry, yeah. How he didn't fall over or get tackled on 3 or 4 occasions, because his balance was just, his centre of gravity was just insane.
Yeah, and it's just a real strong core strength.
For those wondering what the opposite to a balanced run would be, think of Jason Nightingale. Jason
great
Nightingale, it looked like Gypsy's hips were going to discate every time he ran the ball. He made it work, and he did the job for him, but looked so uncoordinated. Like, how does this work?
He looked like he was running on bindies the whole time.
Running on bindies. The Hammer, I mean, to pull that play off when it looked like the Sharks were just going to come over them and just beat them, and it would almost be like really disappointing for the Dolphins. They go down there, they set themselves up for a great win, and they let it slip. No, Hammer does something special in a special moment.
Even when he caught that ball, like he actually ran backwards for a metre or two, and my natural reaction is go, what the fuck are you doing? But him, you just go, see where it lands.
Yeah, something will happen here.
Yeah.
So amazing stuff there from the Hammer. But yeah, we'll speak about the Dolphins first, guys. I mean, look, they go down to Shark Park and beat them. And granted, the Sharks have been a little bit up and down for the last month or so. But at the end of the day, it's away in Sydney against a side that was in the top 2 before this game. Was actually might have been on top of the table at the very least, equal on top of the table, and beat them at home. They're sitting 4th right now, the Dolphins.
It was such just the Dwayne Bennett DNA in it. They were such a professional outfit out there. Everything they did, I know the Sharks got within 2, but it just felt like they didn't really let the Sharks get into this game. Like, they completed it. They were 92%. But every kick chase, there was numbers there, and they didn't give the Sharkies a sniff. They kicked deep. They starved the Sharkies of quality field possession. It was such a well-rounded performance from them.
They were second, but they were equal first on points.
Equal first on points. So, it was just a professional performance by the Dolphins. Like, every single player was playing their role, and for the first half, first of all, they took every opportunity they could get, but also they just didn't, let the Sharks breathe. I know that, probably late in the first half is when the Sharkies try to come back into it. It's so impressive. I do feel sorry for Katoa, because, the amount of traffic coming down his way these days is, genuinely, any team that plays him, the traffic is just all at him all day long. Look, it'll be a baptism of fire for him. He'll get better. There was a few misses there on the weekend that he'll need to improve on, but he is so young. He's so young. If you take out, that defensive stuff that he's getting traffic down his end, I just can't believe how mature he is in attack. Like, I cannot believe it.
It's insane. And he seems to, I kind of get sick of bringing him up every week, but every week you see something else in his game that you just go, where's that come from? How is he, it was round 1 this year. He wasn't in the team.
Yeah, got dropped. Craziness.
I'll tell you the other thing that stands out for me, mate, from this game. You have a look at the starting front row forwards for the Dolphins, Felice Kafusi and Kenny Bromwich. I mean, 3 years ago, they were the 2 best back rowers in rugby league and potentially one of the best back row combinations, one of the most successful back row combinations we'd ever seen. Defensively unbelievable. Kenny Bromwich has played 4 games of front row in his career, and Felice isn't that far ahead. And before this year, Felice played a grand total of 2 games starting in the front row in his NRL career, last time in 2015. And Wayne just goes, you two, go and take on this Sharks pack, which runs with a 4-forward bench. You'll be right.
I tell you what, if you ever need evidence that the game has changed, there's your evidence.
Yeah, 100%.
You've got edge back rowers in the middle, and they're absolutely outplaying a big Sharks forward pack. And, it's masterstroke by Dwayne Bennett because he's going, okay, they might be bigger, but with the speed of the game, if I have 2 of the best defensive players in the competition in the middle, they're not going to give them an inch. The line speed's going to be good. The tackle, the contact's going to be great.
Beat them to the punch, boys. That being an example of the evolution of the game. And we've been speaking about it so often this year, and it's a lot of it really started, I think, with what the Bulldogs are doing there, but just the evolution of the mobile forward pack and the smaller bodies, more agile, lateral moving forwards. 2 blokes who've played the whole career, as you said, not to repeat too much, but back row starting front rowers. The game's changing.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how many teams begin to adopt this. 10 years ago, if you said Felice and Kenny Bromwich were going to be in your front row, you would have been, we're going to get absolutely rolled through the middle.
Yep.
But now it's of course you'd put them in the front row. They're super mobile. They're quick across the ground, great laterally. It's, can't wait to see how it changes the game.
Look at the teams at the bottom of the table. Would you think, off the top of your head, and of course there's players that come in and out, it chops and changes, but just looking at the bottom 4 even, maybe even the bottom 5, they've got quite big forward packs. And I would say probably less mobile forward packs than other teams. The Titans, I think so. The Tigers, quite a big one as well, particularly with John Bateman and Papali'i out. Parramatta absolutely have a big sort of less mobile forward pack. South Sydney Rabbitohs, similar enough, especially since Cameron Murray had been out.
And also the Rabbitohs, since they've actually brought Keon into the middle, they've started playing well.
The Newcastle Knights, they've got a pretty large forward pack, and I think there's merit to it.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that there's a genuine consideration for, if you're trying to build a roster for this next 5 years of rugby league, or even just the future, you're probably, if you've got a big bopper, he needs to be like a Payne Haas. Yeah. He needs to be some freakish guy that has a motor on him for days.
You go up to 12th and you look at the Warriors, who have just moved Justin Ford to become a middle forward.
Yep.
So
the best thing about it too is for a coach to make a decision like that, most coaches in this league would need all the data and stats in the world. I guarantee Wayne has no numbers behind it.
Feel for it.
I can fucking see it.
Yep.
This is what we need to do.
So great stuff. I want to give a shout out to Nikodima. He has been absolutely phenomenal this year. I cannot believe that. I just didn't think he had this footy in him again. We know he can play like that a few years ago, but to come all the way back around years after he was at the Rabbitohs, he was at the Warriors for a bit, moved on to the Rabbitohs. Yeah, okay, kind of more of a utility, moves to the Dolphins. You almost think it's like a lifeline contract. But he has been phenomenal this year.
You know what else? I keep thinking to myself, geez, Nikorima has been so good for Isaiah Katoa. Man, I think Katoa has been good for Nikorima.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think I've been looking at it wrong the entire time.
And it shows you the quality of Katoa, that he can gel so quickly with a guy like Nikodima.
Yeah. There's so much value, and I know I harp on about this a little bit, but just a 5'8" that can swing both sides with such success. He was setting up both sides of the field, and an attacking threat, he'd just pop up everywhere. Cody Walker's the specialist for it at the Rabbitohs, but what Nikorima's doing there, oof.
Outstanding.
Shout out to the Dolphins social media team as well when they named him at 6. The Star Wars Wayne Bennett popping out of the thing, announcing that he's been at number 6 as the Sith. That is just supreme.
It was
content.
top shelf, wasn't it?
It's top shelf stuff. Herbie Farnworth, once again, absolutely killing it. Alrighty, onto the Sharkies. As I said, guys, we're going to be a bit quicker through the teams this week. Sharkies, just that first half, they just got blown out of the water. Obviously, the Dolphins, they were coming off a bye, if I correctly. Mm-hmm. So I don't think the Sharks were complacent. I just don't think they just weren't ready for that intensity because, they just looked like not even in it the first 20 minutes. Did really well to get themselves back into contention. I know it's disappointing for Sharkies fans, and I know, some Sharkies fans are not going to want to hear this, but I am still confident that the Sharkies are just in a bit of a lull right now, and they'll be able to bounce back, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think they will bounce back too. And I mean, I personally think if you take Hammer out of that game with that individual brilliance, I think the Cronulla Sharks win that game. As much as they started terribly, they got themselves back into that game, got themselves in front. And once again, if it wasn't Hamiso on the field, just doing shit that only he can do, I think the Sharkies win that game.
Yeah, it's just that start that they've just got to sort out. So there's a stat with the Sharkies. I think they're overall they're minus 40 for first halves and plus 110 for second halves. And so whether it's Fitzgibbon drilling into them that we're a second half team, because you'd rather probably be a second half team than a first half team, it's just about balancing that out a little bit. You can't get blown off the park.
Well, that's a Trent Robinson thing.
Yeah.
Second half time.
Yeah. So, must be, I guess, I assume it's Fitzgibbon has taken that and he uses his coaching style. In regards to the way they played, look, I know Hines has been nailing it from the sideline, and I get the disappointment, but that's a tough kick to it's from the sideline on his bad side.
Yeah.
It's not an easy kick to get. And I know he's been nailing it, he hasn't missed a kick in quite a while at Sharky's home ground, but I felt sorry for him.
You're still a right footer on the right touchline after an 80-minute game of football.
Yeah, I look, obviously, your marquee players, you want them to nail that. I get it. But at the same time, surely you've got a feel for the bloke. If it was a little bit off to the side and he missed it and it was one that he should get, I'd understand it. But from the sideline like that, you'd hope he gets it. If he doesn't, look, there's plenty of other players like Mitchell Moses. He's missed side from, Nathan Cleary's missed side, plenty of players.
I'd love to see the data around kickers from the sideline on their less preferred position, because I would probably be a little surprised if it was over 50%. Seriously, if I was betting on that kick live in action, I'd probably would have tipped him to miss it. It's the hardest kick in rugby league.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you add on the momentous, the amount of pressure on him. It was I was probably more upset about it was just an ordinary kick. It missed by a fair
That
way.
was the frustrating thing.
If he hit it well and it just missed by a little bit, I'm like, okay, he didn't hit it well, but damn hard kick.
It's a super hard kick, but your point of he did kick it poorly is true. But in saying that, I feel like he's going to be one of those players where everyone loved him in his first year or two, and then now, because we do it, we love it in rugby league, we love it in Australian culture. Once everyone loves them, all of a sudden you're looking for reasons to tear him down again. Nico Hines is still a bloody good 7 at Clubland. He, to suggest that he's overrated or overhyped, I just disagree. Look at this side that he is leading around right now on paper compared to the sides that they're next to. I understand marquee players, you want them to nail the big moments for sure, but I also think that it's almost become a trend to be anti-Nico now because everyone used to love him.
And I mean, the reality is here, they were down 22-0 against a top 4 side. To even be in that game is insanity. And he, as much as he didn't have a hand in all those trials, he set up the first one for Royce the Choice, who apparently the Sharkies are shopping him.
Yeah, I don't think they've got salary cap room for him.
Oh, geez, he'd be a good get for a number of
sides. He wouldn't be on much.
He'd be on probably, I don't know, 200 or 300 grand.
I reckon he's such a good player. Yeah. I reckon there's a number of clubs that could really do with Royce. I reckon for South would be a really good get in their pack.
To give Nico a chop out as well, very windy at Shark Park. If you look at all the goal kicking through the night, Osako missed 2, and there was one that he kicked from the same spot. The first time it went right to left, and then about 5 minutes later it went right to left pretty severely as well. So.
And also he kicked 3 from 4 or something like that, Nico? 4
from 5.
4 from 5.
Not to dig the boot into Osako, but I remember a game last year, I think it was in Redcliffe, and Osako, it was well further in from the touchline than it was to level or win the game. I think it was to level it after the siren, and same thing, had a shocker. It happened.
Shout out to players that played well. Britton Nicotta, far out. He's been a bit quiet for a few weeks, and you're kind of going, hope he hasn't lost that form he started the year with. Mate, he was phenomenal on the weekend.
He's been really quiet all year, and then last week I thought he had his best game of the season, and this year he just absolutely blew it away. What about him setting up that try at the end?
Yeah.
How quick is he?
Yeah.
He's actually not that big of a back rower. You almost assume he is because he's so good in defence. He's so strong and he pulls off hits. He's not really that big. He's not really that big for a back rower. But I thought he was outstanding, and hopefully he can find some form because it shows you how good he is that, you know, you put Talakai to an edge and you assume he's going to explode and kill it. It was actually Britton Nakota that was the guy that killed it on the edge, over Talakai. So, yeah, just want to give him a shout-out. I thought he was outstanding. 41 tackles, a try, 2 try assists, 127 metres, and 3 line breaks.
I'm going to give my weekly wrap to Iro. Another 193 metres at centres without a line break, 76 post-contact. We've spoken about it a lot, but when he took Talakai's spot, Talakai was the best in the league at eating up metres, and Iro's just grabbed that and run. He's been incredible.
Yeah. But the biggest letdown for the Sharkies, it was just their errors in the first half. Like 7 errors to 0 for the Dolphins in the first half from the Sharkies. You know, if you don't necessarily have to go out and win the first half every single week, but if you go out and you make, let's just say, 3 errors, or even be generous, 4 errors, the score's probably 12-0 instead of 20-0 or whatever it was. And you can catch 12-0, but it's very hard to catch, obviously, 22-0 or 20-0. So I think that was their biggest letdown. I also thought Mulatalo had his poorest game. He had 2 really uncharacteristic errors that weren't forced coming out of his own end. So hopefully he can bounce back. I thought Brayley's try to Nikota was beautiful rugby league, and I want to see more of that from Brayley. Like, obviously Hines is the dominant player, but if you can just get around the ruck with that kind of silky play, hitting that overs line on Katoa. And look, granted, it would have taken a pretty special tackle for Katoa to stop him. I don't think many halves stop Nikota with that play. If you can get more of that around the ruck, I think that the Sharks would be even more dangerous.
Especially next year, like once AFB's there, you got AFB, Wilton, and Nick. Those 2 back rowers, I think, across the entire league, there's no combo of back rowers that run better lines than those 2.
Just got a note here as well. We've got to start punishing defenders that stand in line with their hands in the air when an obstruction happens. Look, I'm being extreme here. Maybe I wouldn't implement it, but I'm nearly go as far to say as if someone puts their hands up and doesn't try to get across to that tackle, nearly penalise them. It pisses me off that much. Like, if you get obstructed, at least keep trying to get across. Yeah. Blokes that, and ironically, this is actually not the player's fault. This is the NRL's fault because we're going to speak about it later, but in the Dragons versus Manly game, Kyle Flanagan, if you wonder why players dive, go and watch Kyle Flanagan get obstructed and not dive, do exactly what I just said he needs to do, and they still give the try. This obstruction rule for me is becoming a real concern.
Did you see the one with Sean Bloor?
Oh.
Someone ran into him. He stopped, turned around, fell over. Then the play got tackled, so he got back up and ran back into his line. But he could have won a Logie on the weekend.
that Flano one, as soon as I saw it, I said no try, like not a chance.
Yeah, not a chance.
And then it was Ben Trebojevic obstructing him, and he said because Flano did what any competitive sportsman should do, and that's try to get across and make the tackle. They were like, oh no, it's okay. All of a sudden, no, it's not. If he throws his hands up or goes back, that's not a try.
Yeah, and so. You wonder why. I hate watching it. Players get touched and they just stop and go like that. But they're doing that because the NRL hasn't adequately solved this obstruction rule, in my opinion. I think it's just going to get worse and worse. I think that defences are intentionally defending away so that they, can get obstructed to make it harder for teams to attack. But
it's hard because if I'm Shane Flanagan, I'm going, mate, throw your hands up. Yeah. Because if you do, it's no try.
Yeah. And then poor Kyle in the second half has a crush tackle and gets booed off the field because he, milked an injury and had to get an HIA. Oh. So he's probably sitting in the sheds going, I can't win.
Yeah. Can't win. So this obstruction for me is just becoming more and more of a problem. But look, it's not do or die or extreme or anything like that. But it just, I don't know. I feel like the NRL have almost created an environment that rewards diving instead of the other way around. It should reward competing.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, Sharkies, really, look, the game was lost in the first 30 minutes. They did a real good job to get back into it. Bit of a lull at the moment. I've got confidence they'll be able to bounce back. Alrighty. Cowboys defeat the Raiders 34-16. I tell you what, I did not see this coming from the Cowboys. Down in Canberra, cold as anything, and they come out and they play the way, we all hoped they would play. Like, if this was what they did on round one, I'd be like, oh, well, this is where I think the Cowboys are at. Really good attacking side. Got, a bunch of origin players. They should be dominant. They were absolutely outstanding. And just, to be honest, completely outplayed the Raiders. I thought that Townsend was outstanding. I thought that you could see a real, like, Kale Weeks and Strange, like, they try their hearts out. But I felt like one of the real differences was the kicking game of Townsend and Dearden. And you saw the difference of, like, out-and-out halves that have been playing NRL that just are kicking you into corners, making all the right kicking selection, whereas Strange, he's still learning his trade, not necessarily noted for his kicking game. Kale Weeks also, arguably maybe not even a 7. And I just thought that was a real difference between the two sides, was the kicking game of Dearden and Townsend.
Oh, the Cowboys frustrating. They played this well, and even at the end of this, I just sit there and go, where is this week to week?
Yeah.
Well, they did against the Roosters 2 weeks ago. Didn't fire a shot last week when they got their origin players back. Then the Cowboys from North Queensland go to Canberra and put on a performance like this. I have no idea what to expect next week from the Cowboys.
Jimmy?
Yeah, it's always hard to get a gauge on both these teams, what they're going to dish up each week. But going into this one, I just thought all signs pointed to a Raiders win. I just thought they've got, in my opinion, a far superior forward pack. As you said, the Cowboys going all the way down to Canberra on a cold night. The Raiders were off the bye. The Cowboys had come off a couple of big weeks. And I just thought, this one is there for the Raiders to win. Not just did they lose, but they got belted. And, from a general footy perspective, I'd love to see that footy from the Cowboys. Ideally, they don't save it up for the Raiders. But, the Cowboys who have been so up and down, that's 3 really good weeks in a row. And they were terrific.
Mate, they have had no buys, and they are 1 point out of the 8. So if they had one buy, they're in the 8. They'd be 8th right now if they'd have their buys.
Just everything from their desperation. Like the Raiders created opportunities in that first half, but just desperate last man defence on the line, saving tries. Where's it been all year?
Yeah, well, here's a great stat. This just shows you the attitude difference. Cowboys' ineffective tackles, 28, compared to the Raiders, 5. So, you look at that stat and you go, oh, the Cowboys got towed up. But they were just so desperate. So, even though they were falling off tackles, they were scrambling substantially better than the Raiders.
You know what they look like? A team that has a heap of origin players.
Yes.
All of a sudden, out of the blue. You have a look at their forward pack from the weekend. Guys that were, Reece Robson, Ruben Cotter, Helam Lukey, Jeremiah Nanai, that are all in origin camps this week. The only one that couldn't be picked was Jason Taumalolo because he's a Kiwi and he would have played 15 origins by now. They've got the side on paper. They just... Consistency just kills them.
Obviously, the Warriors last week, a terrible outing, but the Roosters before that was a huge win. Even with both sides with origin players out, another big win on the weekend. You start going, it's getting harder and harder to get a gauge on. Who have they got this week? They've got a bye. Then they have Panthers in round 17. Who knows what's going to happen there?
Preparing for the Cowboys must be a nightmare.
Yeah, because you just seriously don't know what you're going to get.
You just cross your fingers and hope it's the version where they don't turn up.
If they finish 7th or 8th, they are a huge wild card. They're almost the last team you'd want to play, I think.
Yeah, especially with a guy like Scotty Drinkwater, who truly just got magic in his hands. He is a magician with the ball in hand. I thought a real key to their victory, it was Ruben Cotter in the middle.
Yeah.
Leg speed, fit, good laterally, powerful, explosive. We keep talking about this kind of modern front rower. That is what Ruben Cotter is. He is a modern front rower. And because he had such a big game, he increased the tempo of the game, which is sometimes when you watch the Cowboys, when they have their real big boppers in there, just slow through the ruck and really struggling to get a grip on. If they're defending and there's a bit of roll on, they just struggle to catch up to that quick play the ball. But I thought Ruben Cotter really set the tone. And then you add in guys like Lukey, who also had an outstanding game. They played the way I'm sure Peyton sits there each week and goes, boys, this is what we can offer. This is what we can do. I'm sure because 4 weeks ago, I'm sitting there going, is Peyton under pressure? Like, that's how bad it was. Now I'm sitting here going, look, there's plenty of time left in the season for them to get into the top 4. Like, plenty of time.
Well, I think this weekend, when you see how many minutes Ruben Cotter plays, I think that reflects how nervous Todd Payten was about getting this done. He made him play 70 minutes smack in the middle of Origin because he's just like, I can't take him off.
You literally can't. And, like, unfortunately, for Ruben Cotter, who works himself to a standstill, the only way the Cowboys become competitive is if he kills it.
Yep.
Because outside of that, they just don't have the leg speed through the middle that he brings. So, yeah, I thought Cotter was outstanding. Elam Lukey, so good to see him get some footy under his belt. And he's just a handful. Like, he's big, he's mobile, he's fit, he bends a line constantly, he's got good footwork. And just his gas tank is seriously phenomenal. 26 tackles, 0 missed on the edge. Like, great knock from Elam Lukey. I want to give a shout out to the great proceeding hairline, Chad Townsend. I think he's leading the NRL for try-assists. He's a big try-assist guy. Can you check that for me, please, Matty? But like, I thought he was really good on the weekend. I thought he led them around perfectly. He's playing some good footy, and I know he's not necessarily like the youngest half or the flashiest half, but do you really need that when you've got Scotty Drinkwater in your spine and Tommy Dearden with you? I don't think you really do.
I think he's actually like the perfect foil for the rest of this side.
Yeah.
Because the rest of them are just such high energy and they're all over the place. And that's how the Cowboys play anyway. But like, I'd hate to see them without him.
Yeah.
He's second, but equal to him is Scott Drinkwater. So it goes Ben Hunt on 20, then Townsend and Drinkwater on 17.
Bloody hell. That's so good. That's so good. So, yeah, I thought Townsend was really good. But, yeah, Scotty Drinkwater, I thought he was absolutely, just magic in his hands. And, only one error, which is good. And he had a bit of a lull, Scotty Drinkwater. I'm not sure. I don't know whether him not even really being discussed in Origin at the start of the year, did it hurt his confidence? I'm not sure. But he definitely has had a lull. After he opened the season and he was like, genuine, like fireworks, and then he's been quiet for a while now. He's back to close to his best.
Yeah, I think that Brisbane game rattled him. Where Adam Reynolds sort of picked him apart there. Tough evening, that.
What do you think, Cowboys, mate?
Yeah, I thought they were good. I thought as well, a shout out to Griffin Neem. I thought he was pretty good off the bench as well. In limited, he played 30 minutes, but got through plenty of metres as well. They're very, as you mentioned, very hard to prepare for, very dangerous in attack. So, yeah, they're a handful. Raiders, in for a world of hurt. They got the Tigers this weekend, so good luck, Timmy.
Bad to worse.
Yeah.
Okay, just looking at great offload for McCauley for a Cowboys try. I like that. Holmes' defence still not. Don't know what is going on there.
It's
seriously.
so bad, that miss on Whitehead.
It was so bad. It's strange, but it's hard to say he plays poorly though, because he still rips and tears. It's one thing to, like, if you're playing poorly and you're not having a dig, you're not going out there ripping and tearing. You go, you need to get your head in the game. It's like with Holmes, like, okay, he has a miss here and there, but when he runs the ball, he's got to be the hardest running centre of the game, surely.
Yeah, right up there.
It's fucking unbelievable. So, yeah, really, really good win from the Cowboys, and desperately needed. And anything else on the Cowboys, boys?
Just the old boy Kyle Feld on the wing.
Oh,
His finishing just gets better every
that
game.
try. Oh, my God.
He had no right.
He had literally no right. And how many of them has he scored?
Yeah.
He is one of the best finishers in the game.
You just become so used to it now. It's like, I felt with another incredible finish. Like, what he did on the weekend, that was special.
A lot of those tries he scores too, where Drinkwater throws those giant cutout passes, like, a lot of them aren't great balls by Drinky. Like, it's a miracle he catches all of them. He makes it, like, wherever Drinky puts it, he just comes down with them somehow. He's a freak, Kyle Felt.
Yeah, like he's, as I said, he's probably the best. Like, Xavier Coates right now with his finishing ability is pretty good, but Felt's been doing it for like a decade nearly.
Yeah, Coach should be better.
It's like so bloody good. So good. Okay, on to the Raiders. Just really surprising. I thought that everything was set up for a really grindy, gutsy win at home. And, I know Ricky was a bit critical of the refs, but I got to say, I just felt like the Cowboys the Raiders got outplayed. I have to say, you're desperate for a hooker. Desperate for a number 9. I look at the times where the Raiders were the best they were. It's when you had Hodgson around the ruck. And I just think at the moment, if I am the Raiders, I would be knocking on the Cheese's door and just putting a fair bit of money into bringing either the Cheese or at least someone down there. Because I just feel when I look at KO Weeks and Strange, like they rip and tear. They have a go. They go all day long. And you can never knock their effort. But the craftiness around the ruck, it just, unfortunately, with the forward pack that you've got, it's just not getting utilised, in my opinion, as much as it probably could if you had an out-and-out number 9 that he was your guy for the next 5-6 years. Timmy, thoughts?
Yeah, we absolutely need a craftier number 9. And it's not to say like Danny Levi or Tom Starling don't have a place in the NRL, because they do. And like I think Danny Levi in particular, I think he's been really good for us this year. But they're not what the Raiders need. And like the note I had down from it was actually that we are missing a silky ball-playing half 5'8" or fullback. We just don't have it, so we don't have the polish on the end of our backline movements, and we haven't had it for a few years. And I think having a quick look through it, the only clubs that you could maybe argue don't have a silky ball player in their 1, 6 or 7, and maybe like the Tigers and Bulldogs, and that's even with Jamal Fogarty there. Great player, but not like the silkiest ball player of all time who's going to bring you a lot of points. And then I look at the Doggies and Tigers. They have quite crafty number 9s in Reid Marnie and certainly Api Coruscant, who's one of the best playmaking 9s in the game. We just don't have the polish in attack there. So, whether it's a 1, 6 or 7 or whether it's getting a number 9 in, as you said, like our strength is our forward pack, but we're just not getting the best out of them, particularly in and around the ruck, around attacking the line. Yeah. So we need someone in that spine.
Yeah, and I think like the reason why I'd consider Cheese, I know he's not the craftiest, but at least it's just front foot, explosive through the middle. Everyone gets on the back of him and you go again. Because I just think that this Raiders forward pack, because you don't have a ball playing fullback, and Fogarty is a structured 7, and even Strange, he's a ball running 6.
As is KO Weeks.
As KO Weeks as well. You can't really afford to just have a 9 that's good service, because it's not like they're not passing to Mitchell Moses and Dylan Brown, where you can kind of get away with going, all right, just you guys do it. As I said, when you have been at your best, it was when Hodgson was your number 9, and he is one of the craftiest hookers in the game.
And you can get away with, I still don't love it, but you can get away with 2 ball running 5'8". And I know Jamal's injured, so it was like they didn't have anyone else. But if you've got a crafty number 9, but imagine how much better. Our forward pack's tremendous as is, but if you had like a Wade Egan at number 9, in and around the ruck. Like we see what he does for not only the back line there, but for Adam Fanua-Blake around the line.
What Tarpany could do, Hudson Young, all those boys. Like if you had a hooker getting out, and Danny Levi, I think Starling is like the perfect 14. I really like him coming off, scooting out of dummy half. Danny Levi's probably had the best year of his career. And like in a team that had like a Mitchell Moses or a really dominant 6 and 7, it works perfectly. But just so it's no knock on Danny Levi, although, I thought he didn't have the best game on the weekend. And it's more of he doesn't suit what you need right now, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I just, like the Raiders gritted their way, despite having a terrible for and against last year, to finals footy, and we're in the top 8 right now. And that's great. And with the roster that we've got, we're still competitive and playing finals footy, and I'm very happy about that. But if we're going to get to the next level and get to, September finals footy and actually not compete, because we will compete, but be a chance at pushing for prelim finals and grand finals again, we're just lacking spark in attack.
Yeah.
When I was down in Canberra the other day, they had a Jersey flag hooker named Owen Paddy, who I really rate. He's from Queensland. He's come down to Canberra. He actually hasn't played the last 2 weeks. I expected him to be the hooker for the Queensland under-19s, and I know from talking to a few people down there, they're very high on him, and he's one of those high-end hookers. I think he's one to watch over the next few years. So, but he's Jersey flag now. You're probably looking at a year or 2 away, realistically. But he really impressed me. I've just had a look at the Jersey flag last 2 weeks. He hasn't been playing, so I don't know if he's injured or whatever it might be. But he was captain of their Raiders Jersey flag 3 weeks ago when I was down there, and he was very impressive.
Well, in Ricky's defence, he has openly said that we're investing in young, like youth.
Yep, 100%.
Like we aren't going on the market to go and get a big player in key positions. We believe we're going, like, for example, Saunders gets there next year. Is that official yet?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's going there.
Fuck.
Yeah.
So it's official. It's signed, sealed, delivered.
Yep, he'll be there next year.
Then you add in Chevy as well.
Exactly. So, like, the plan is there, which I do like from Ricky Stewart, where it's like he's been open about it. Sometimes I get frustrated with coaches because I'm like, tell me what the plan is so that you can look at it and go, okay, these are the positives, these are the negatives. So the negative for the Raiders is exactly what you said. You're going to be competitive. You might be able to jag a win or here in finals, but you're probably not going to go all the way. Like, it's just eventually a team with a much better roster is just going to come and beat you in a final series. So it's going to be at least probably 2 to 3 years before you can say, you know what, we may not push for a premiership, but at least the goal is to, with these really flashy players in key positions.
Just on that note, like with the Raiders, like there are a couple of, like there's a guy playing for the New South Wales under-19s back rower, Noah Martin, who's another one that they're very high on, very good player, as you said, Chevy Stewart. I'm a bit surprised he hasn't played first grade yet, but the Dragons centre, his last name's Tamale, who's very good, and when the Dragons have had a heap of injuries recently at centre, they haven't picked him. I'm pretty sure he's signed with the Raiders too.
Okay.
So they've made a couple of nice signings. Miles Martin's heading down there, another young guy that I like. So Ricky might feel like on the surface nothing's happening, but he's making a lot of moves at the moment.
Yeah, I think he's genuinely looking at like probably 3 years, a premiership run in 3 years.
Yeah. He's looking to give guys opportunities before they would in Sydney or Brisbane, essentially.
Yeah.
Just smart, I think.
The direction it's going in is fine, as you mentioned. Key signings, we're building really well. This year just can be tough watch at times. But we're also sitting in the top 8. Like, it's not
doom and gloom. To be honest, you shouldn't. From a roster-wise and the injuries you've had in key positions, you shouldn't be in the top 8.
It should have been over when Jamal Fogarty.
Raiders were my biggest slide team.
Yeah.
So it's incredible that you're still in the 8. I think it's done an outstanding job. Alrighty, now anything quickly about the Raiders, or all good?
No, I think they've overperformed this year. They've, maybe a few things catching up with them now, but can't be too critical.
Just quickly before we move on, all that being said about lacking a spot, but whatever it might be, on the weekend, discipline was horrible, completion rate was horrible. We did not turn up for that game. Like, it was so bad.
Well, all the things that make you competitive, you didn't do.
Yeah.
And so when you add that with the fact that your roster isn't necessarily the flashiest, it's disaster. Like, it's just never going to work.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to be like the Cowboys or even the Broncos to a degree where you might turn up and play like absolute bustards in like discipline, completion, but somehow, some way you get a win. Like, the Raiders just not going to do that.
Happen.
It's not going to do that. So they just need to sort that out. Alrighty, KO's got you covered this footy season with every game and every round live and ad break free during play. Some key games this weekend include Titans v Warriors, Roosters v Bulldogs, South v Manly, which are exclusive to Fox League and available on KO. But you can watch all games live and ad-free during play on KO. South defeat the Broncos 22-12. An absolutely outstanding performance from South. Exactly what they needed, and I mean, it's like a world away. Like, I cannot believe we're looking at the same roster that dished out what they dished out for the first, 10 weeks or whatever it was. Their line speed was outstanding. They were super aggressive. I think Keon Kalamatangi is a revelation in the middle. I think that unless you get in a position where you've got an outstanding front row that's just like one of the best in the competition, he has to stay in the middle now, in my opinion. Like, he is too damaging. You cannot afford to have him out on the edge for too long. As I said, unless you've got a Burgess in his prime or, to be honest, not many other people's that they have in their roster right now, in my opinion, would push him out of the middle.
Yep.
Latrell obviously outstanding, Cody Walker outstanding, and mate, the exciting thing for South is maybe they could make the 8. Who knows? It's such a tight table. But the most exciting thing, in my opinion, is it says that, okay, when Wayne arrives, we are not as far away from getting back on track as we thought we were. I'm assuming there's a lot of Rabbitohs fans that go, yeah, Wayne's going to arrive. Even if he does arrive, it's going to take 12 months to get back in the fight. Positive is that may not be the case. Matty, I'll give you thoughts on the Rabbitohs.
Yeah. Oh, seriously. It's been, as I said earlier, it's been a tough year. Like, since Magic Round last year, I honestly believe that's been our first proper legit win, which is crazy. Like, there's been 5 or 6 wins, but they've all been against bottom kind of ranked teams. So to finally have a great performance against a really good team, that first half was the best half of footy South have put together in a long, long time. The key moment for me, South have been leaking points all year. They get a man in the sin bin at the end of the first half when there was every opportunity for all that hard work to be undone when Kenner went off. And they just held strong, didn't concede a point, and at halftime I was like, they're not going to lose from here. So, fantastic.
Yeah, I tell you what, Ricky should have been sent off, in my opinion. if Cam Murray had the ball, then, it might not even be bloody 10 in the bin. But it just was a lazy brain. Lazy's probably the wrong word, but it was a brain explosion. And Ricky has been so good for quite a while now that, I give him a pass for this one where I go, you know what, brain explosion. You've been so good for so long. It's just one of those errors that you make as a footballer. It's all good. But in my opinion, he should have been sent off. I just think, I want the game to stay physical as it can possibly be. But when we see shots off the ball like that, that's when we see knee-jerk reactions that affect actual tackles that we make. If you know what I'm saying? No one enjoys shots off the ball, correct? It's not a part of our game.
No.
So, but things like that happen and they start knee-jerking and they start getting even harsher on actual tackles. And that's where I still want the big hits that are legal. Or let's say they do bounce up a little bit and they hit someone on the chin. We go, you know what? That's part of rugby league. Yeah, okay, it's a penalty, but it bounced off the ball or whatever. But I thought the Ricky one was a send-off and he was super lucky not to get sent off, and it was just a pure brain explosion. Cam Murray didn't get the ball. He had time. If you want to say he didn't have time to pull out, okay. He definitely had time to ease the impact. Absolutely, in my opinion, I thought it was a send-off, boys.
Yeah, I agree with you, mate. I think you actually summed that up really well. We can't have it in our game. I thought there was every chance to be a send-off. And I do think it is worth pointing out. To me, probably a year ago, I felt like Jordan Ricky had a brain explosion every 3 weeks. It's been a long time.
He's been so
consistent
good.
He's worked hard at his game, Jordan Ricky, and I think he deserves a lot of credit for it. You're going to have these moments like that. But yeah, I did think it was
you know what? It was a frustrated player that's been working his bum off and things aren't going well at the Broncos and the game was frustrating and he just wants to do something to help his teammates. Brain explosion. But I think he's worked so hard and been so good for so long that I just excuse it as everyone has a brain explosion every now and then. It's all good.
When you compare that 15 seconds of what Latrell did and what he did, they did not deserve the same punishment, that's for sure.
We'll get onto the Latrell bit. Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, not a heap to add to what you've already said, boys, there. I think you summed it up really well, and there's just no room for off-ball stuff like that. As you say, Kempy, when there's time to pull out of it. I understand. I actually support players and think they come down too harsh on them at times when it's like a split-second thing, then the motion making a tackle. I think they come down too harsh. He had time to pull out of this one, so I think he probably deserved to be sent off.
Yeah. I
shoulder hit head off in the new environment.
Matty, do you think it was off? You actually didn't think it was off at the time, but you were at the game.
I was at the game. You can't see anything in that stadium. You need binoculars. Look, I don't mind. I could have gone either way, 10 or sent off. I just think it was absolutely crazy that Latrell got the same punishment. Yeah. That is just nonsense.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll get to the Latrell bit. I get this whole third man in, but did you watch just what happened?
Yeah, what's he supposed to do?
Was he just oh yeah, ref, you'll take care of it? Okay, no worries. I'm sure the Broncos boys will be fully devo that you took care of it. You've got to show some ticky. You can't get staunched by the opposition like that. Your captain just got blindsided, and you're going to be okay, ref, I'll let you sort it out. This is rugby league. You're not going to get staunched by the opposition like that.
It's also not like Latrell came in throwing punches.
He just pushed him. Who gives a shit?
It was such a non-event. And that's what you want leaders in your club to do.
This is rugby league. If they had have allowed the Broncos to just do that to their captain, you're on there battling. You're breaking your bones, you're bleeding, you're split. Every game there's head knocks, concussions. Your brother, your mate, your captain, your leader just got blindsided, and you're not going to do anything about it.
I just can't believe Latrell got binned.
Yeah,
mate. Whether it's in a footy game or in everyday life, you see a bloke get wailed like that, let alone your captain returning from injury off the ball. He said he didn't even do anything. He pushed him. In what world is that a sim bin?
Okay. This is the Rabbitohs. Cam Murray has to go for HIA, and they lose Latrell Mitchell, and we just lose Ricky. How's that fair? We should. You know what? The ref should have gone. You know what? To make it even, I'm going to send another 2 of you boys off for 10 minutes because Broncos are the ones that did the foul play. How are the Rabbitohs more punished? Yeah. The Rabbitohs got more punished. How does that make sense?
Yeah, and if it was bad enough, South could have also lost Cam Murray for another week too.
Yeah,
for a game, it's crazy.
Just the amount of blokes that they have made a bit of a statement in recent years of just third man in. They don't necessarily have to throw a punch, and just binning them. I'm it's rugby league. They're competitors. They get fired up in any example. Like third man in, if they come in and give a bit of a push and a shove, like who cares?
He was also eighth man in. He wasn't third man in.
Yeah,
he was because his push was a bit more
you know
aggressive.
what, he was just the biggest and the strongest guy that you could see. So yeah, I thought it was silly, and I'm obviously not glad South won, but I tell you what, if I was a South fan and he's had a loss, I would have been filthy. And I think that has covered up that call quite a lot because South ended up winning. If South had a loss, it would have been headlines everywhere about how bad that call was. So I'm glad they didn't get punished at the very least. But yeah, back to the South. They to be honest, they weren't playing as good, but the style of play that they were playing reminded me of their run early last year, that first 10 rounds where they had crazy good line speed. Cody Walker looked so sharp. Like, he looked energized. He was pulling the Broncos apart. They just looked, happy's probably not the wrong word, but they looked just, every single thing they did it with a purpose. It wasn't just going through the motions. They weren't just like, oh, my job's throwing a line, so I'll just dawdle through. No, they were out there to dominate and win. I thought it was an outstanding performance.
Just on Cody Walker, I heard one of the commentators at one point, it might have been after the Latrell thing, say, Cody wasn't in there. He normally is. I think Cody has got that stuff out of his game for about a 2-year period now. Yeah. And I don't think he gets anywhere near enough credit for it.
Yeah, like he might have a game here or there where you'll get arced up, but most of the time these days he's pretty chill.
Yeah, he was G'ing up Dave Fafita last week, but even that, it wasn't.
That's not the same as the old stuff.
Not even in the same ballpark.
The old stuff he used to be getting in the push and shove and the grabbing of jerseys.
But I just felt like the commentator was sort of like it's just happened overnight. Like, I think Cody's been like that for 2 or 3 years now.
Yeah, I think he's had to because he's a leader now.
Yes.
As I said, he still has a game here or there where he gets super grumpy, very grumpy old man. Quickly on the Trell, the key for me for Trell, physicality, running the ball first. That try that he scored, I was like, okay, Trell's on. And so that's what exciting for South fans is he's starting to just run the ball, just like the most destructive ball runner in the competition. You want him running the ball.
Yeah. On top of that, I reckon it was one of the more complete performances we've seen from the Trell in a fair while. Just in the sense that we're often very critical of his effort areas. I just thought they were tenfold better. Like, you could tell he was playing from an origin spot and making a statement, but for starters, he took over a lot of the fifth tackle options and the long kicking game and a few of those big bombs. There was that. I thought his support play through and in around the ruck was a lot better. Everything he did was just, like, he took a lot of those first hit-ups, one off the ruck, coming out of his own end, that we never see Latrell do. And, not that we say that he necessarily has to do that, but they're the strengths of Tom Trebojevic and James Tedesco, Dylan Edwards. He was doing that. Everything in his game was just, he looked like a new man.
And I really hope that Ben Hornby does pull him aside and say, mate, can you see the influence you can have on this? You don't have to do it at Dylan Edwards levels, but just lifting it that little bit, it just brings the whole team with you.
Well, when they were going through their tough period, what did we say each week? Whether Cody Walker and Latrell like it or not, they are the only two in that squad that can. I know Cam Murray's the captain, but the most influential players are Cody Walker and Latrell Mitchell. They are the barometer of whether they are going to be good or bad. And you can see ever since Cody Walker's actually been playing good footy for longer, but ever since he's been put in that 7 role and he's taken that leadership on his shoulders, they've been great.
I'll tell you what else I think has really helped them. Jack White and jumping in at 6, he just straightens them up constantly. And they just look so much better.
Absolutely. I will say, a bit surprised Keon's name hasn't been tossed up to be part of the New South Wales squad. I know that you're stacked for back rows and that, but mate, he's been playing unbelievably for the last month of rugby league. So I think we'll see him back in an Origin jersey maybe next year.
If we get done in this game, he could play game.
Surely bring him in. Surely, I just think he's a great middle player now. For the modern game, we keep talking about mobile front rowers. He's a mixture of both. He's friggin' massive, but he's got a crazy motor, great footwork, and a bit of an offload.
He played Origin last year, so he's an Origin standard back rower, and now he's proving he's an Origin standard front rower. He'd be so good on the bench.
Mate, he would be great coming off the bench because he can cover edge and then all through the middle as well. Anyway, I thought he was really, really good. Outside of that, that's pretty much it.
Yep.
I thought Jacob Gagai's try saver on Ezra Mann was phenomenal. Really, really good. And that's what Rabbitohs have been missing. How much of a turnaround from Taylor May off the tap off Edwards, no one chasing essentially, to Jacob Gagai, try saver on Ezra Mam. Like, really, really good stuff.
Alex Johnston, second most tries of all time.
Crazy. Anything else on the Rabbitohs, boys?
No.
Pretty well covered.
All good, mate.
All good? Okay, on to the Broncos. Really disappointing performance from the Broncos. Obviously, completion rate 64%. Once again, I felt the outside backs, not all of them, but obviously Selwyn Cobbo had 4 or 5 errors. Tristan Saylor, first play, drops the ball. We spoke about, people were getting really excited about Tristan in the preseason games, and we felt like a bit of Debbie Downers. Remember, my mum's name's Deborah.
I recall.
You recall?
Yep.
And we said, he's electric, he's incredible, but these errors, unless your name's Reece Walsh, you just can't have them in the NRL because they will literally cost your team the game. Now, this game, I'm not saying he solely cost the team, the game, but him and so on Cobbo's errors, they contributed quite substantially to the loss. The completion rate, they need to take a step back and realise that all of this fanfare that they've got and how big they are as a club, they got there from hard work. Not what they're doing right now, which is allowing errors to happen and, I'll knock the ball coming out of my own end or do the silly play that I don't need to do. They need to fall back in love with hard work because, unfortunately, they are on a massive slip and you can tell by their body language and you can tell they're starting to get a bit jumpy and when I say jumpy, I mean they're starting to feel the pressure a bit. And if they don't turn around soon, winning can become a habit, but so can losing. And all of a sudden, that confidence that they came in the season where we can just blow any team off the park, you can find yourself going, I forgot how to do that. It's just not in us anymore. I want to get some positives though. Karapani, he may not be the most well-rounded player at the moment. He may have a little bit to work on, but I tell you what, after his game the other night, I'll take him over some other players because at least he ripped and teared every time he had the ball, and that's all I got on my notes. Karapani, he had a real crack. He may not be the full package yet, but I'll take him any day over some other boys that, unfortunately, just not having the same dig he's having.
Yeah, and, he was a star at the South Sydney Rabbitohs and they let him go and, for me, I couldn't see any on-field reason why. I would say it has to do with off-field. I say it would have been an attitude thing. And mate, by the look of what he's doing, it looks like he has taken that on board.
Yep.
And really turned himself around. I agree. I think he's been a great get for Brisbane. And if he might be the best 6-choice winger in the game.
Yeah, it's crazy. And so, he's still got to work on his passing and all that. But as I said, at least he was ripping and tearing when we were getting absolutely dominated. Whereas there were other players that they just don't have the same energy that they had 6 weeks ago. And also what was kind of, was frustrating as a Broncos fan is so the last 20 minutes when the game is almost out of our reach, all of a sudden we just turn it on and we dominate field position, we dominate the Rabbitohs. It's just boys, if you're doing it in the last 20, it clearly shows that you're not ripping and tearing in the first 20.
Yeah.
What do you think about the Broncos?
I think the big worry for Brisbane, you're sitting in 9th now, you've got a bye, so you'll probably be in the top at the end of next week. But if you keep losing these games, and you have a look at the teams below you, Cowboys, Wars, Knights, South Sydney, who are all teams that can go on a run at any point. Brisbane just don't want to end up in a situation where they've got 8 games left and they've got to win 6 of them and they're playing finals footy for 12 weeks all of a sudden because you just, it's shown over the last however long rugby league's been around, you need to be in that top 4 to win this competition. Mm-hmm. And if you're having to win finals games in round 25, 26 to get in there, you're next to no hope.
I do think we're missing Catewell quite a lot. I think that Piakora defensively just has quite a lot of lapses. Attacking-wise, he's brilliant. He's absolutely brilliant. But I think he's a guy that I know he loves the big shot and he loves to I think he needs to kind of go on the same learning path that Ricky did. To be honest, a bit similar, not play style, but similar coming through. Big, super athletic edge back rowers that probably tore teams apart. But then Ricky, what he did, he fell in love with all the 1%ers. And I think Priakora probably needs to round his game out with that. And I do think that, when we said when Catewell got signed and moved on to the Warriors, we said it might have been a year too early. I think that they miss his leadership out there quite a bit. And just quickly, before I pass to you, Timmy, Madden. Really, really poor game. Kicking on the first tackle, bad, some really poor decisions. I'd be this close to considering debuting Kobe Black. I know it's really young and I know it's really early. I wouldn't do it next week, but unfortunately, if it's not Madden, I'd be bringing Falls in potentially because at the moment Madden is just not doing the job.
And I like the other guy when he plays a few weeks ago, Josh Rogers.
Oh, Rogers.
I thought he looks great.
Or even Rogers, someone. Because at the moment, I don't think Madden is playing NRL standard.
Yeah, I thought you look complacent, and I think the forward pack in particular look complacent. Like, I look at these two teams going into it, and I admit it is a different looking bunnies pack with Keon in the middle, Cam Murray back, but still Cam Murray's first game back in a fair while. And I just thought with Haas, Carrigan, a few others there, that they'd be dominant enough through the middle that they'd get away with it. But I don't think you earned the right to go wide. You were going laterally and playing wide very early, and nothing was on. Like, there was no reason to do it. And as you said, Kemp, you completed it, it was a bit over 60%, which is never good enough. You can get away with it you have gotten away with it in the past with Reece Walsh there, because he can pull things out of his backside and score and set up tries, and he can be your go-to for points even when things aren't going right. You don't have him there, but you played like you did. And
like when you look at Sailor, Stags, Selwyn, Cobbo, they had 12 errors between them.
I just thought if they rolled up the sleeves through the middle, I'm not saying individuals didn't have a crack or whatever, but you should have been winning this game through the middle. Not only did you not win the battle through the middle, but I thought you dominated at times. I thought, as you said, Kemp, they've got to fall back in love with doing the hard yards and doing the 1%ers, and they they look complacent to me.
Yeah, and they, as I said it earlier on, but the hype that you have by being a team that's going well in Brisbane, it's unlike no other. No other club comes close to experience it. I was speaking to Matty before the show started. Like, they've got hundreds and hundreds of people rocking up to their captain's run each week, not just before a big game, every single week. Yeah. But that love that you have right now, that came from hard work. And I think that they do look like a team that's very comfortable with where they're at and enjoying the hype that comes with being a loved team in Brisbane.
Yeah.
And they need to just take a step back and go back to the things that got them there.
And when you win the middle, defenders tie in, they're scrambled, you've got to roll on momentum, they're gassed, and you can then play wide and, strip numbers and get that space on the wing. With Reece Walsh there, he's such a freak that he can turn like 3v3s into 3v2s and 2v2s to 2v1s. There aren't many players in the NRL who can do that, if any, at fullback. So you just look like a side that were going, where's Reece Walsh to throw the ball to? But he wasn't there.
Here's another stat. So between the outside backs, Karapani 2 errors, Tristan Sailor 3 errors, Katoni Stagg 3 errors, Selwyn Cobbo 4 errors. Dean Mariner was the only person that didn't have an error, and you're looking at 14 errors between the outside backs. 14 errors between just, not the backs, so not Ezra and that, 'cause Ezra had an error and Jock Madden had 2. If you include that, you're looking at 17 errors with the backs.
And we have this conversation once a month. Probably more, really.
And the problem is those errors aren't in attack. Those errors are coming out of our end. Yeah. Hopefully
and then
they can.
On top of that, defensively, I think you've seen the impact of just new combinations, chopping and changing, blokes in and out. On the edges, they look so disjointed. Some of the defensive reads, that's not the Brisbane Broncos.
Yeah. So look, the positive is they've still got the roster to turn around. Hopefully it's just, the positive as well is it's just an attitude thing. It's not a physical thing. It's not something that you have to go out and buy whatever. It's purely an attitude thing. I reckon they can. I hope they can turn around. I think I've got faith in the boys.
Shout out to your wonderful mother Deborah, but hate to be a Debbie Downer. To miss the top 8 market, we've taken more bets on the Broncos than any other team at $5.50. Currently sitting outside the 8.
They can't. They deserve it. Unfortunately, I hate to say it, they deserve it. Just quietly, Dean Mariner's try. My God, so bloody good. 2 tries, 17 runs, 194 metres, 70 post contact, 8 tackle breaks, 2 line breaks, 11 tackles, only 1 missed, and no errors. Bloody good game from Dean Mariner. Out of all the backs, I thought Staggs was pretty good as well, but out of all the backs, Dean Mariner was great, and obviously I thought Karapani was really good, ripped and teared. But I thought Xavier Wilson coming on was great too. But yeah, they've got to turn it around. They are desperate for some leadership out there. So hopefully they can.
No one was more happy with Dean Mariner's try than me, because I have this weird superstition where I don't go to the bathroom until South concede a try, and I was hanging on for dear life. So when Mariner scored that try, I was very happy. Very, very happy.
I love that you said that out loud.
It's so weird.
What happens if you do shut a team out and they don't score a point, and leading into the game, you're busting to go, but no, I'll wait for it. Do you just...
Mate, it happened in the Auckland Nines in 2015 in the prelim. And I was like, there was nearly an emergency.
In what?
But
In
we
the
won.
Auckland Nines?
The Auckland Nines.
So it was an 18
Surely
minute
the Auckland
game.
Nines, you kind of relax the rules a little bit.
Relax the rules.
Well, we won the comp, so we worked.
Shout out to Matty King.
Yes, very good.
There's going to be a day where you're busting going into it that kicks off, you didn't get time to go, and you're going to shut a team out. Are you just going to wet yourself?
Yeah.
Code Brown.
Jesus. Okay. Wow. Okay. All right. Tigers v the Titans. Look, very weird game because friggin' Titans were like pretty dominant. Like they looked like the better side. They had something like 7 line breaks to 2. But what I love about this performance by the Tigers is that, okay, do they lack a bit of professionalism at times where they kind of let things just go? Like, I mean, there was one try where I was just like, I think it would have been the Fainu try, maybe. I'm not sure. I can't remember. I got it on my notes. But anyway, where...
To Olam.
I'll just get it up real quick. It was... lazy play. It was Matamua on the inside. He just kind of like switched off. So there are all those little parts of the game where like you'll see players either just switch off or error. But what I liked about it is that it wasn't a win because you had great attack. It was a win because you just friggin' hung in there. Like, and the Tigers, when's the last time they had a win like that where they literally just hung in for their mates, hung in for the guy beside them? Everything was going against them. They weren't even playing that good a footy. If anything, last week in the first half, they were playing substantially better footy, but they just hung in there for their mates and they got a victory. Like, really, really important victory. I think they were desperate for a win like this. Absolutely outstanding win for the Tigers, in my opinion. Couldn't
agree more. 2 from 2 at Leichhardt this year. The last time that you said, when's the last time they had a win where they got around each other? Round 2 against the Sharks. We should be playing all our games at Leichhardt. Thank God they saved it. No, you're right. We might never win another game. We might never lose again. A couple of those early tries though were pretty classic Tigers. I mean, we conceded one in the 5th minute. Jojo Fafita scored there in the corner. And then I think you mentioned that other one, just a massive switch off moment. And Jaden Campbell just about walked through. You know when you're playing knee footy and you just like knee through? That's what it was like. But you're right.
He must have just like stopped thinking.
Yeah.
Because it just like, he just switched. Like it's like he was daydreaming.
Yep. But they hung in there. And there was a couple of players that stood up in particular. Stefano's one that we spoke about obviously before, particularly his second stint I thought was really good. Justin Olam had one of those games where every time he got the ball, the whole crowd came to life. He ran so hard, got a couple of tries, blew a kiss at the camera.
Love that.
We love that. And the other one for me was Appy at 7. And apparently Benji goes, I want to play you at 9 because that's going to give you the best opportunity to get called back into the Blues team. And he goes, if you need me at 7, I'd rather you move me there for the West Tigers.
Wow. Great yarn.
He got in there. He never gave up. He had a one-on-one strip as well. There's all these just little things that he did. I mean, I just love that guy. And the boys really followed him. Great leadership, and it led to a gritty win.
I tell you what, Appy Coruscant, he reminds me of, and he is Fijian, but he reminds me of the Fijian Sevens, that like everything is like almost unorthodox, but you know it's just been learned from just playing footy. Like just whether it's local footy, whether it's in the backyard, all the little things, all the little ways he's had to deal with being a smaller player, all the little shortcuts here and there, all the little ways that you can get across the field or contort your body or ducking tackles. It is just pure footy. Like there's no structure around it. Like he can, if you want to, he can give you structured footy. But it's just basically like, I'm going to look up, I'm going to see where the space is, and I'm going to try and make something work. It's honestly footy distilled into its most pure form from an outside back. Like, not outside back, but from a half or a 9. It is just beautiful to watch.
He's so good to watch, eh?
Oh, it's just like, how did that happen? Like, what just happened? Like, there'll be 10 blokes around him, and you just see his blonde hair just like, and then he'll just break the line.
His biggest issue is whether guys can keep up with him or not.
Yeah, 100%. And that's why, he's so hard to combine with at times because his footy IQ is just on another level. Like his ability to be deceptive with ball in hand, it is unbelievable.
It's brilliant. And I love that yarn, Hammy, around it, just going, team first mentality and what that brings to a club. And slid in halfback, did a job there. And it's a weird one for the Tigers. wasn't the prettiest win, but the Tigers really play pretty footy at the moment. But as you mentioned, like they had half out, so Appy had to go there. They had their starting edge back rows from the start of the season and 2 bigger name players, Papali'i and John Bateman out. They had blokes missing all over the place, and every stat line was just about against them, but they gritted their way to a win, and they've done this a lot of times this season where they have shown some grit, they've lacked a bit of class, but haven't got the result. So I'm so happy. They deserve to get a 2 points on the board.
9 line breaks to 2. 9 line breaks to 2 and they won. Outstanding. I love watching Appy Coruscant play. I understand why rugby league needs to be structured. Like, I get it. It's got to be structured, and this is how you tear teams apart. But sometimes it gets lost in the game, especially at a professional level, of just go out and play some footy. Just go out, play what you see, and then we can recoup off the back of that. And that's what I love about Appy. Secondly, Fainu on the edge is going to be a problem. We're talking about, was he 20 years old?
Yeah, he was under 19s last year, so yeah.
So when he gets his man strength, no one's going to stop that guy. Kieran Foran, probably the best defensive half in the competition and one of the bravest. The tackles that he had on Olam, where he could have, if Kieran Foran had a step to the side and tried to grab him around the legs, everyone would have said, you know what, Foran, you're an old war veteran on the field. We get it. You've earned your stripes. There's no need to earn any more stripes. No one is ever going to question your toughness. But Foran just goes, nah, I'm just going to stand right in front against Olam and just take the best. So Olam is running straight and hard at Foran. He manages to sometimes even win the contact. But Fainu is such a big dog. He is so strong. He just goes, boom, get off me. Thanks for coming. Breaks the line, sets up the try for Olam. Fainu, for me, this is how good he's going in an environment that's, it's not necessarily ranking environments compared to the top tier. You're looking at the 16th or 17th best environment to become a footy player in.
100%, yeah. Especially when all these players are out too.
Yeah, as he gets better and the environment gets better, we might be looking at one of the most destructive back rows in the competition in a few years' time. Seriously, that's how much I rate him.
Oh, I think we are.
Yeah.
I think, and he played through the middle to start the season a little bit, and he was really good there as well. He's been a great signing for Manly.
I'll never forget the first time I saw him in the under-19s New South Wales game last year, and as a Queenslander, he was disrespectful, he was rude, he was niggly, he was angry, he was fucking staunching our forwards. But I was just if he was a Queenslander, I'd be loving that shit. But he obviously is a New South Welshman. I'm going, fuck this guy. But he just staunched us. The whole game, he just constantly was pushing heads, pushing us. And that's what you want from a forward in Origin. And then you go back to the start of this year, he would come on the field and as I said, sometimes in professional sport, everyone can kind of just go through the motions because they're doing a job. He would go out there and go, no, I'm here to dominate the opposition. I'm here to bump people. I am so excited to see how he goes.
I walked away from that under-19s last year going, he might be too much of a loose cannon.
Yeah, hothead, yeah.
But Benji seems to I haven't really seen any moment. He had that, he got sin-bitten a few weeks ago for a late tackle or something.
Yeah, against the Broncos.
Just completely accidental and whatnot. I haven't seen any of that since that 19s game.
Well, that was just switching off, didn't he? Just
tackle it? Went into cruise control.
Off the tap.
Oh, I think there was another time he got 10 in the bin though before that. I can't remember what it was.
He had 2 in one.
Yeah. Watching that 19s game, it looked like he was going to get sin-binned every game of his NFL career though. He was going nuts.
Yep. He is so good. Timmy?
On Fainu?
Yep.
Yeah, no, again, summed up very well, boys. More than well. He was destructive, runs a terrific line, a bit of the, obviously not at this level yet, but a bit of a Olakau'atu vibe, funny enough, being a former Manly back rower, but just destructive, one-on-one, very hard to tackle, and you can go to him when there's nothing on, and he looks likely every time he can create anything. So very early on in his career, but very promising.
Yeah. Outside of that, look, how good is it just to have, how important is it just to have a number 7 or 6? I know we played 6, but Caesar, who can just kick the ball well.
World of difference.
It changes everything. He kicked for 525 metres, and Appy kicked for 194 metres. It genuinely, kicking in today's game, if I'm a coach of a guy that is going to be a halfback and he's in under 10s or something, I'd be telling him, look, obviously practice your tackling and practice the passing or whatever, but I would spend nearly as much time on kicking, because kicking is only going to become more and more important. The more kickers are protected, which they They've never been more protected. Like, you essentially can't touch them. Now, on the weekend, so last weekend and the weekend before, all of a sudden you could tack the kickers again. And then Storm versus Warriors, all of a sudden you're not allowed to touch the kickers again. So I don't know what consistency is going on there. But it looks as though the trend is we're going to get to a point where you essentially can't touch the kickers. So the better you are as a kicker, like if you can get to a point where you can just ping it anywhere, mate, look at Nathan Cleary. Imagine Cooper Cronk in today's game or a Thurston.
Yeah.
Like, they would just have it on a string. So, yeah, the kicking game of Caesar was absolutely just, like, vital to their win. I thought Seyfarth was really good.
Probably best game of the year, Seyfarth.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm surprised he didn't start. I think they started Bolle on the edge, yeah?
Yes.
Matamura, I think they started at 13 and they brought him off for Alex Seyfarth, I think.
Yeah,
I
thought that was weird.
Because Matamura started at 13 and then I think Seyfarth comes on at 13.
Seyfarth's been really good in the last couple of months, I thought.
Yeah, except for I actually got away with a little brain explosion last week.
Yep.
But yeah, he has been quite good. But I thought this was his best game of the year for sure. Anyone else stand out for you?
De Silva, thought he was pretty good at number 9.
Great service out of dummy half.
Yep, he was good. When he
Got
came
big
off,
raps on him.
Yeah.
Appy did slip in there, and I actually really like the look of Heath Mason, who came on with the headgear. I thought he had some great footwork and almost reminded me a little bit of like Benji there, just with a big right foot step a couple of times.
He's a good player, man. They've been high on him for a few years. If you have a look back, I think it was 2-3 years ago, the West Harold Matt side won the comp, and like that's Harold Matt's. Like 3 years later, I think they've got 6 first graders that have come out of that side, which is pretty wild to see.
I thought Buller was much better with just his busyness, just getting involved. 26 runs, 207 metres, 6 tackle breaks. Still probably not at the heights that he was last year, and obviously had a few errors.
Yep.
But at least he's trying to get into the game. He's trying to get involved, trying to almost fight for that form back. Okay, on to the Titans. Just a really disappointing loss. Like one of those games where they'd done everything they could, everything except score the tries to win the match, and they don't win the match. It's going to be one of those things they look back and go, if they do win the wooden spoon, it'll be like one of these performances where they go, fuck, like the game was there to be won. Like we put ourselves there to win it. They just could not ice the game. Could not ice it.
Yeah, very disappointing. I still don't know really where to place them.
They just had this great run, like this run of like, probably what do you reckon, 6 weeks or 4 weeks where you're going, Jesus, this is a tough, gritty. I mean, if I'm being honest, this is the Gold Coast Titans.
Yeah.
They look like they've turned a corner, and each year we wait a week longer to see whether they turn the corner. So we go, we see one good game with good defence and we go, okay, I want to see 2 good games. And then I want to see 3 good games, 4 good games. This year we were like, I want to see a month of good footy. They give us that. And then all of a sudden they just go, boom, off a cliff the next week. 10
errors in the second half.
They're weird. And part of me wants to feel sorry for them. Like Dave Fafita was a laid out for this one as well. So like they're missing Tino, Dave Fafita, AJ Brimson, like, you know, arguably their 3 best players. And they created, as you said, Kimby, like it was 9 line breaks to 2. They converted 2 tries from it. So it's not as if the opportunities weren't there. There was more than enough. They just couldn't finish them.
Oh, man. Like, if anything, the Titans should be, like, that's what they are known for, is their attack, and they just could not.
Just couldn't do it, yeah.
And look, don't get me wrong, I thought the Tigers were really good, but I didn't think they were like, we're not talking about Storm's goal line defence here or Penrith's goal line defence here. Like, they were there to be beaten. I'm just really concerned about the roster. Like, it's a relatively young one, so they can grow. But, for example, who's going to take Foran's position at 7? You know, what are they going to do with Brimo, Kinney, and Campbell?
I think they have to bite the bullet on at least one of these fullbacks and just accept they're going to go somewhere else. They're going to be great. Media's going to give a shit about it, but they can't keep. They're holding each other back at the moment, in my opinion.
Well, it's just like we said it last week, but unless Kinney or Campbell are okay with playing Q Cup for the rest of their career, whenever Brimo's back, then you're better off just. You could play fullback. Like, imagine a Campbell or a Kinney at the Raiders. Like,
after the last 2 games from Kinney, he's going to settle for nothing less than being a regular NRL player because he was outstanding.
And we know what Campbell can do, but at the same time, like, they're just... Yeah, anyway. So, like, this roster for me is... Do you make wholesale changes? Do you not make wholesale changes? Like, this is a team that under Desi Hazard, a lot of us thought they were smokies for the... not necessarily even the top 4, and yet have gone completely the opposite direction. I understand that they're missing Tino on that, but wooden spoon. Look what the Dragons have managed to do with their squad.
I think in defence of Desi Hazlitt in particular.
I'm not saying.
No.
Yeah.
But say it's every time with a new coach. It's not his roster. He's inherited this at what was a bottom 2, bottom 4 club, whatever they were last season, and he'll come in. He'll put his touch on it. He'll get what he wants. Much like Serraldo with the Doggies, first year no good. It doesn't happen overnight. Yeah,
but that's the question though, because Serraldo cleaned his roster out, and that's what I'm saying.
He did entirely.
When I look at this roster,
what do you do?
I actually like this roster. I like, Fodawaker and Fafita and Palacia and Tino.
How long has Foz got left on his contract?
I think next year's the last year.
Yeah.
And that's going to be because once again, Tanner Boyd's not playing footy at the moment. Is he prepared to take over? You've got Carter Gordon.
Coming.
Maybe.
Yeah, we'll see how that
Foran's
plays out.
Foran's off contract.
Foran's off contract?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he probably doesn't go around another year, I'd say, unless they get him for minimum.
It's hard because
You
he's
have
still
to keep
playing
him.
good footy.
Well, who else is going to take his spot? But at the same time, it'd have to be on a much reduced contract because you can't afford to pay him a big wicket when he's been injured, in and out of the first grade side.
I'd re-sign him on I'd re-sign him on more than minimum. I still think he's got a fair bit to offer, and he's been, I'd say, more durable this year, bit better.
I'd go around the 300-ish mark.
Yeah, for a veteran starting 5'8" who basically plays as a 7, yeah, I would.
About 300.
Yeah, I reckon if you're Foz, though, you could demand more here. At the end of the day, what else are you going to do?
Yeah, it's true.
It's me or... Okay, you got the Wallabies 5'8". Let's see how that plays. Historically, that's... I'm not sure how that's going to go.
Yeah. You're right. Foz could probably demand more because, he's their best option. And he's still playing decent footy.
Yeah.
Defensively, a few misses on the weekend, but they were absolutely
And if I'm
peppering him.
Foz too, I'm sitting there going, I know you've got a couple of mil sitting in your front row and your back row. You don't have $1 million to go spend on a halfback realistically.
Yeah, almost call their bluff to a degree.
Yeah.
How crazy is it in a sign of the times, NRL signs the Wallabies 5'8". I'm kind of oh, cool. Got the Wallabies 5'8".
Yeah.
If that was early to mid 2000s, it would have been front page of the papers for freaking 2 weeks.
Yeah. It's crazy, eh? Just
It's
totally
a
changed.
sign of where Australian rugby is at for the World Cup a year away.
It's crazy. Only
Most
1
recent
year.
5'8". It's not like he's gone to the Panthers to play 5'8". Respectfully, he's gone to the Gold Coast Titans, travelling too well.
We're literally wooden spoon right now.
It's insane. And are we if he's not in the starting halves round 1 next year, I won't be shocked. They've got 7 fullbacks to fit in this side somewhere.
See, I'd probably start him more in the centres just to ease him into it. It's a big ask to put him at
Which
6.
of their gun centres do you
Yeah.
drop?
Well,
that's the... Yeah, it's a weird position.
Brimell will be playing centres, not...
I thought some positives. Obviously, Kinney was outstanding. I thought Jojo Fafita was great. It's just... They are underachieving so dramatically. I just cannot believe it. I cannot believe it. Anything else on the Titans, boys?
They had a little passage between round 6 and round 12.
Outstanding.
The biggest margin in any of those games was 4 points. They only won 3 of them, but they showed a bit of grit and stuff there. Then they hit the bye, and they've come back and lost pretty badly both times. So maybe that just took it out of them a little bit. I know they got some injuries as well, but they're in a bit of a Barney at the moment.
Is AJ far away? Is he...
Round 18, NRL.com's got him.
Alrighty, time now for fan questions with our great mate Dwayne Bennett. How you going, brother?
Mate, I am feeling good. I'm feeling confident. Look, top 4. We're getting to the business end of this season, man, and I'm feeling very, very good.
What's the question this week, mate?
Mate, we've got a great question from Mitch. He's a Tigers supporter. He asks this question. I think it's a good one. Do you like how they take Origin interstate every year for game 1? Or do you think it could be taken elsewhere?
Okay, the question is, do we like that they take one Origin game interstate, or do we not like it, or could it go somewhere else? I'll start. I'll be honest, off the bat, the selfish part of me that doesn't care about growth, I don't like it. I wish that it was 2 games in one state, 1 year, 1 game, obviously, and then the next year, 2 games in the other state. So, like, purely from a fan perspective, it's something that's, it's Queensland versus New South Wales. It's our thing. Like, we should be able to celebrate it as much as we want and go to as many as we want. But from a perspective of looking at growing the game and understanding the bigger the game gets, the bigger Origin gets, the more opportunities that young men and women get, I go, you know what? I swallow my own selfishness and say, whatever's going to grow the game, we could do. Even a couple of years ago when they were talking about taking New Zealand, I was like, no, it's New Zealand. It's a different country. Like, this is one thing. It's our country. It's our state. But the more I've thought about it since I was like, no, I was like, you know what? We want to expand the game and add more teams into the NRL. That would be a way to grow the game. Plus, only recently, the Warriors and Storm game, I think there was a finals game in rugby union where they moved the start time. And so strike while the iron's hot. If we're having that much of an impact against rugby union, then why not go a step further and take an Origin game there? Guru, what are your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, I'm very similar, mate. A few years ago, when we first started to do this, I hated the idea of it. And I don't know, maybe I'm just a salty Blues fan, but I feel like I can't even remember the last time we had 2 games in Sydney. Feels like so long ago. I remember we had 3 games in Queensland. That was fun. But yeah,
You know why? Because Queensland love rugby league and actually wanted to put it on. Like New South Wales.
Put it on that year, mate.
Mate, we laid the platform. New South Wales was like, oh, don't want to put it on, I'm too scared. Typical.
Yeah. Biggest series win ever. I would love to see it in New Zealand though. I think with the crowds they're getting and stuff over there, it would 100% pack out. I think it'd be unreal. And yeah, it was a semi-final they moved to not clash with the
That's
Wild.
insane.
I've been to one game in Melbourne, mate. I was in year 11, went down there to watch, and there was a bird flu outbreak when I was down there. I came back and school went, you can't come back for 3 weeks. I went,
what?
Good as gold, just Tekken, Rugby 08, 3
No
weeks.
way.
Fantastic.
What do you reckon, Timmy?
Yeah, I'm okay with it, just having the one game in Queensland, one in New South Wales, and then playing one elsewhere. I particularly like just the fact that it does neutralise a little bit and that no state has a major advantage these days, and it is, 1-1 there. I think going around Australia is good. The New Zealand concept I'm not probably as keen on, just being an Australian-based competition. So I like that it does stay in Australia. Certainly not against taking it to New Zealand, but it's not something that I'd probably rush to do. We've sort of, and without going off on another tangent, we've spoken about the idea of having a rep round and having, maybe a Tonga and NZ game this time of year, or a Tonga and Samoa, whoever it is, the Pacific nations. And I'd like to see them, try and build that up and play that in NZ or wherever it might be. But for the time being, I'm happy to see Origin stay in Australia.
Just quickly with that, like I'm with you in regards. It's an Australian competition, and it's the pinnacle of Queensland versus New South Wales. But the more I've thought about it, the more I thought, think about how many young Kiwis go and watch Origin. They'd be like, you know what? I'm not going to go play union. I'm playing league because I eventually, and I know they can't play in, New South Wales versus Queensland, but it's still a showcase of the game at the highest level. They're like, you know what? I want to be a part of this game that has such big spectacles, and hopefully New Zealand and the international game gets bigger.
Which
I understand what you're saying.
And which is fair, but we've seen New Zealand and Tonga or Samoa test played over there, and the impact is still enormous, and it packs out. And just the hype is enormous. So I still think they would get as much impact. But again, that is building on a whole new concept rather than just taking an Origin game over there. So I understand it.
I mean, I'm with you in regards to, I think we're all kind of leaning towards, is there a way to get a rep round during Origin so that we could give more games to New Zealand, Tonga, Samoa, PNG. Yeah. Dwayne, mate, what's an update on the Finlanders, mate? How you all going?
Oh, mate, we're growing this fan base exponentially. People are coming on board. Everyone wants a second team, and that second team being the Dolphins, the Redcliffe, mate, they all are coming on board. It's easy to get on board too. It really is. All you have to do to become a Finlandier is to go to finland.com.au, download your digital passport, upload it onto your smartphone, and then just wait for my special announcements. And everyone who comes on board gets one of those iconic, special, amazing, beautiful, budget direct fins, man.
Oh, wow.
So you can put your fins up every time you go and see a Dolphin game or sitting in the comfort of your own lounge room. By the way, I reckon we should take rugby league all over the world. Greatest game in the world, China, Russia, Madagascar, South Africa, South America. Mate, we'll take it everywhere so we could show them the greatness of that which is rugby league, my friends.
Oh, that's passionate. I like that. Wow, that's a lot of passion. I like that, Dwayne. But, mate, thanks for joining us. We really do appreciate it, buddy. Alrighty, time for Storm defeating the Warriors 38-24. And Warriors come out and absolutely blow Storm off the park. And because of the history of blowing teams off the park with the Warriors, I was going, oh, this is almost a bad omen for the Warriors. And it ended up being a bad omen because Storm basically, since that beginning of, 16-0 or something like that, it was just very, very strong start. Storm, after that, essentially had the game in control. Look, I understand Warriors fans, they say a lot that they don't get a lot of calls. I will say in this game, geez, they got some very, very tough calls. Now, that's not to suggest both Watani Zelezniak and Montoya didn't have brain explosions, but leading up to that point, you know, you could tell the frustration was bubbling within the Warriors team because of some of the calls they weren't getting. I do think the Storm, and my notes anyway, and maybe I'm biased because you obviously associate with the Storm with the wrestle because they were the best at it for so long, but I do think it is starting to creep a little bit back into the game where they're getting away with really good wrestle, which is absolutely no knock on the Storm. Get away with what you can, but they are finding ways to stay in tackles a little bit longer. And I think that really frustrated the Warriors, and that's why you got the reaction that you did from those players, which, again, it doesn't excuse the brain explosions because it cost them essentially the game to a degree. And it's just Storm doing what they do, just being super clinical, frustrating teams, and getting the job done over in New Zealand against a team that came out all guns blazing. Guru?
Yeah, the poor Melbourne Storm, they keep on getting accidentally tangled in tackles. And
I can't believe refs don't know it by now.
But credit to Melbourne.
Oh, credit to Melbourne.
Like they're wrestling standing up now.
It's
they're
crazy.
not even getting to the ground.
No.
They're just having to get tangled standing up.
Always got a hand in like
or
that.
a leg twisted
it's
in
like,
or
come
something.
on. Nah.
Yeah.
It's like, as I said, it's not the Storm's fault. It's the refs' fault for their inability to identify wrestle. Like, it's insane.
And it's wild that it's not like, even when you're just refereeing the Storm, it's wild it's not on the radar. But obviously, when it's all happening so quickly, they're better at it than most, but they're definitely taking advantage of it.
Yeah, and I just noticed that it's definitely felt like it's crept in a little bit more, like they've found way, because I feel like refs, obviously they're looking at wrestle, but nowhere near as much as they were maybe 2 or 3 years ago. What'd you think, Timmy?
It was a crazy game, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Like, just massive flows of possession, and the momentum changed so many times. It was like, all right, who can capitalise enough on this momentum? And I think both teams coming out of it will be going probably largely disappointed. Like the Storm conceding 24 points.
Again.
Warriors, again, I think it's like, what, 3 or 4 weeks, their last 4, they've conceded 24 plus points, which for a Melbourne side who, you know, are genuine title contenders, that's not good enough. That being said, like, they're putting on 38 points without arguably the 2 best attacking players in their team. I know there's a lot of them, but with Ryan Pappenhausen out, Cameron Munster out, to think those two are going to come back into this team, to go over to New Zealand against what was a revitalised Warriors outfit with players back on deck, it's a good win from them, especially after being blown off the park early on.
Oh, it's outstanding win. Outstanding win. Like the Storm, again, I'm getting a little bit concerned about leaking this many points, but like they're on top of the table again.
Yeah.
And like you look at the roster, you look at the way they've played this year, because we have such high standards for the Storm, you go, well, they shouldn't be anywhere near the top. Like they should be like 6th or 7th. Like that's genuinely, like that's how good I feel like they've played, also with injury and everything. But like compared to what we know the Storm can do, that's kind of where I, in my head, mentally have them, like probably around the 5th or 6th mark. They're on top of the table again.
Even the tries they did concede, the same story we've spoken about for a while now. It's the edge of, again, not just singling out Nick Meaney, but that edge, I think all 4 tries came down it.
Yeah.
It's if they can tighten that up, I don't know what the solution is to it, but the defence, they'll find themselves conceding a lot less points, but they need to do it because come finals time, 24 is going to be too many.
Yep. Guru, what do you think about the Storm, mate?
Yeah, I agree, boys. Their defense is a concern, but they just, we were sort of talking pre-show, like they feel like they're not as good as the side that was around 3 years ago. They're definitely not as good as the side that was around 6-7 years ago with, you know, the big 3 and stuff. But once again, you just look at that ladder and they're just perennially in the top 4.
Just in the top. Like
They're
it's just
hanging there.
It's amazing. Like they're not even just the top 4; they're on top of the table.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, us 3 up here, we've been talking for 2 years. If they're going to go well, Nas has to be the big guy. Greg Bellamy keeps getting to the 30-minute mark going, you're done. Everyone else get out there. Like, you'd have to think he's in for a huge finish to the season, wouldn't you?
Surely. Because he's barely played any footy compared to what he normally does.
It's not going to be worn out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just feel like the Storm just don't get the credit they deserve. Like in regards to even when they're missing Pappy, they're missing Munster, missing key players, not necessarily playing their best footy, not even having like before the game. And for Storm fans that are sitting there going, "Fuck, geez, you're being harsh on the Storm." Bellamy said this before the game. So the lady asked him, like, you're on top of the table comfortably, and he said comfortably, like he said he basically said like. Essentially, like, we shouldn't be on top of the table, like, without saying it. Like, he was like, there's buys in hand, and at this top point of the year, like, all this kind of stuff. So even Bellamy's sitting there going, we're not playing as well as we probably could. And yet they're still on it's incredible. And, like, going away to New Zealand when they've just bounced back and they're looking red hot and doing that. Like, Hughes, for example, was absolutely outstanding. Katoa was outstanding. It's just an incredible organisation. Like, the fact that since 2006... they have been on top. 2006. Yep. They have been one of the best teams in the comp. It is amazing.
And look, they are conceding too many points, but if you just look through the results, two of their biggest games this year, Roosters and Panthers, Roosters only scored 2 tries on them, 18-12 win. From memory, I feel like they were off kicks as well, so defence was great there. They beat Penrith all the way back in round 1. It was in the wet, but kept Penrith scoreless. And then probably the other one you'd lob back on top of that is the Broncos. They put 32 on them in a game the Storm won. But in the bigger games, the defence has been there. So, if they can lift come finals time, which I don't think anyone would be doubting that they will lift defensively.
Well, and also their for and against is still pretty... their points against is still in the top 4, I'm pretty sure. I'll just check real quick. So their points against are 257, which is... 3rd.
Wow.
So it's still 3rd. Again, even we are guilty of having too high of a standard for the Melbourne Storm.
Yeah. And have a look at this side this weekend. Like, if you look at their back line, the only guys that would be in their best 13 is Meaney, Coates and Hughes. Like, Grant Anderson wouldn't be there, Irema wouldn't be there, Farlongo wouldn't be there, and Wishart wouldn't be there either. It's just half their back. That's more than half of their back line missing.
It's genuinely amazing. Like, it's one of the best organisations in the country, bar sport, bar anything. It is amazing what they've achieved.
So on average, points per game, they're 5th, like very, very marginally 5th. But they're one of 2 teams this year that haven't lost by double figures.
Wow. So their points against, are they 5th or average?
Average, like least points conceded per game, they're sitting 5th.
Sitting 5th, okay.
Best defence in the NRL, shock, Panthers, 15.6 per game. Second best, the Doggies, 16.2. And then there's an enormous gap to the Roosters, who are next on 19.4. So the Doggies are like 3.2 less than the Roosters.
I see what's happened. So they've actually, that's the average, but this is the total points against.
Just because of buys.
Yeah, just because of the buys and stuff.
Yeah, okay. Fair enough. Okay, let's get into Jerome Hughes. Look, like I feel like we speak about him every week, but mate, he is just an absolute game breaker. Every time he touches the ball, defences must be going, fuck, like, what's he going to do? What's he going to do? Is he going to do an incredible cutout ball? Is he going to hit Katoa short? And I think the added weapon of him and Katoa, that partnership that they're building, it almost makes defences go, shit, like, do we have to double team Katoa? Do we have to double team Hughes? It's almost like 2 attackers are worth 4 defenders. That's how good they are in attack together. I thought he was absolutely phenomenal on the weekend. And just, someone started watching rugby league this year and you had said that guy was a fullback 4 years ago, they would have said, mate, you're off your head. It's almost like he was made in a lab for a modern 7. Like the modern 7, it's like he was made for that. He was incredible on the weekend.
I'll tell you what, when you look at the career of Eli Katoa when he came into first grade, all the ability in the world, just consistency was the big issue. Like, obviously, it's worked out very well for him that he's landed the Melbourne Storm, but to land outside of 7 like Jerome Hughes, it's changed his career forever.
I'm such a fan of Katoa, and what he's achieved, and he's such a he's almost marketing for the club when it comes to trying to recruit other players. It's like they can go, guys, look where Katoa was when he came to this club. Could barely make the Warriors side, and we're not talking about the current Warriors side. We're talking about a Warriors side that was struggling massively. He comes to the Storm, and he would have to be at least in the top 3 back rowers this year. So you'd have maybe Olakawatu, Crichton, in him.
I mean, I'd have Fafita there. Billy Slater probably wouldn't, but
Probably be top 3 back rowers this
Yeah.
year.
Well,
and if you
yeah.
had him in Dally M at the moment, I would be okay with that.
Yeah, and he's probably it's been a while since Craig Bellamy sort of plucked a forward out of nowhere, and they've turned into like an Origin player, like he used to do. What felt like every 3 months back in the day. But if Eli Katoa could play Origin,
Absolutely.
he'd be right up there. Like,
He's eligible for
the
Queensland.
lack of
actually.
respect to Trent Loiero.
did you hear that?
Nah.
I just thought I'd heard whispers he was eligible for Queensland,
Yeah.
but I don't know whether it's true or not.
Oh,
From the
please.
South Island of Queensland.
That combo, Hughes and Ellie, it's just a thing of beauty. It's getting better every week, like as it should as combinations evolve. But even Ellie Katoa himself, he's becoming such a well-rounded attacker. Like, he runs one of the best lines in the competition for a big boy. His kick chases, both like aerial and just grubbers in behind the line. He chases everything.
Yeah.
It's a Craig Bellamy.
All the things you thought were never going to be part of his
Yeah.
game is what he does best.
And usually defensively, like he is spot on. He had 7 missed tackles this game, but usually he's sweet. And also in the wet, not all missed. Put it this way, I didn't watch the game going, holy shit, his defense is way off. Not all missed tackles are the same. So yeah, I thought he was outstanding. I thought it was hilarious watching Fa'alongo win himself.
He put it
that's some
away
good
for the
stuff.
second try, didn't he? This one,
Yeah, just reel it in. But it'll be back, baby. It'll be back. Just landed right in the breadbasket. All there coming out of you. Who else did it?
The funny thing about that is the amount of tries he would have scored in lower grades, and he's probably done that a million times and never winded himself, and he saved it for the big stage with the big crowd and the big viewership.
He didn't set the world alight or anything like that, but Jack Howarth in contact is so strong. Like, he reminds me of Angus Crichton so much. Like, I cannot get the comparison out of my head. Like, they are big. They obviously both used to play in the centres in rugby union. Like, he's in contact. He must be. There's certain people when you tackle them, it's like they're made of something different. Like, people always used to talk about Petro Sivanasiva, how you tackle him and he felt like granite. He just felt harder than normal human beings. Howarth and Crichton must be similar. Like, they are just strong in contact.
You keep on like we've been talking about Jack Howarth for years, and whenever he comes into first grade, I think, okay, we'll see why. I never really do.
I never walk away going, oh, geez, he was terrible. And you know.
I get it now.
Yeah, no.
He just always looks like if he just had more time in first grade, he would develop very quickly.
Yep. So, like, really, really good performance, like, from the Storm. And, like, they did exactly what they needed to do, which go to New Zealand, get the 2 points. No matter how you get it, just get it. And they had a lot, they looked like they were about to get blown off the park. They just do what Storm does, slowly inch their ways back in the game. Going to be interesting to see if Pappy is back next week, because you'd assume he'll take that fullback role again off Fa'alongo. And I wonder if they put Fa'alongo on the wing or whether they go, one of the other boys. Outside of that, anyone else stand out for you boys?
All good, mate.
Covers it.
It's crazy, man. I'm looking at these meters. Only Fa'alongo, Katoa ran over 100 metres.
Fa'alongo had 2, not long range, but 2 semi-runaways, which were probably 30 or 40 metres as well.
But like that, people might be like a bit shocked sometimes when you don't really get many Storm players in the team of the week very often. Now, sometimes you do with like Pappy or whatever, but it's because none of them ran over 100 metres and they still won by the margin they did. They are such a well-oiled machine that if everyone does their job, they're spreading the responsibility of getting the job done better than any team in the competition. Like, literally better than any team in the competition.
The Warriors had a lot, like if you look at their attacking stats, Warriors had 40 more runs. They ran 250 more metres, 150 more post-contact metres, and they had 20 more tackle breaks than the Storm. But Storm still ran in 7 tries to 4.
Yep, and they had Fanua Blake over 100 metres, Jackson Ford over 100 metres, Mitchell Barnett over 100, Tohu Harris over 100, Dylan Walker over 100, and Chance over 100. Like, it's just amazing. Amazing what the Storm do. Okay, on to the Warriors. Look, I just felt like they allowed the Storm to frustrate them instead of just staying in the pocket, just staying calm and collected, and the brain explosions just killed them. Because I feel like before that, if they just had somehow stayed in the fight for that set, or maybe even one set longer, I actually feel like they could have flipped the game on its head and won it.
Yep.
It's a lot of what ifs, but yeah, they just lacked that calmness in the heat of the moment, and the Storm do what they do best, is do exactly that, stay calm in the heat of the moment.
I think, mate, what you said there, like, I'm getting through this Warriors season with just so many what ifs. I really hope it's not one of those seasons we look back on, because at the moment for me it's shaping up like that.
Well, your first 3 games is a bunch of what ifs. They were lost by a little bit from the Sharkies, and then the next 2 games. So the positive is the game was there to be won against the Melbourne Storm. Like, they really put themselves in a position. The negative is obviously the leaking of 38 points. That's a concern. And also, like, the halves partnering of SJ and Tamade Martin, I hope it clicks again. But it does, at this stage, look like they're both too similar to each other to click. So it's going to be interesting to see how Webster works that out, because Metcalf is almost the perfect foil for SJ because he's just a ball runner, whereas Tamade Martin is quite similar to SJ. So it's going to be interesting to see how they balance those two halves going forward.
I don't think it helps at the moment too that Tohu Harris seemingly playing a lot less minutes in games. He's been balancing injuries for what feels like 10 years now, but I think at the moment he looks pretty banged up and playing limited minutes. Dylan Walker, plays that role really well when he's in there, but I think Tohu Harris, his ball playing and the way that he links that side is really underrated.
Yeah. And when they went on their massive run, a lot of it was around Tohu Harris playing long minutes and linking through the middle. And they're probably missing that a little bit because, like, Dylan Walker, he can link through the middle, but because he has a ball running game as well, it's not as, I guess, systematic. It's more off the cuff to a degree.
Tohu's timing is just unbelievable.
Mitch Barnett, I thought, was really, really bloody good on the edge there. I mean, hasn't he just, like, his ability to go from one of the best front rowers in the game, form-wise, and just go out to an edge and then also start killing it? Outstanding. What a smart choice from Webster to swap him in forward.
Yeah,
I never would have picked that. I never would have looked at that and said, oh, you know what? Jackson Ford needs to be in the front row and Barnett needs to be on the edge. And yet, boom.
Yeah, especially when you consider all the young back rowers they've got that we hear so much about, like your Labans and these sort of guys. I expected one of them to lob out there, to move Barnett out there. It's been a great move. And, like, what a signing he's been.
Just, we talk about, like, other teams getting guys out of nowhere and, like, building them up. Like, Barnett was having disciplinary problems. I don't think he was in and out of Newcastle Knights, but it's not like he was a locked in, like, no matter what, he's not going anywhere. Whereas, like, they would kill for a guy like Barnett, the Knights now. That's how much he's improved since he left. Other stuff with the Warriors, what I really liked is their first try. I love the fact that even though it was on outside, they hit short with Pompey.
Yep.
And just ran that really hard unders line. And obviously they got the try, but just hitting short early, setting up the rest of the game. Outside of that, as I said, it's going to be one of those things where they're going to look back at those 10-minute sin bins. I think also, obviously, the 5-0 penalty count for the first 20 minutes of the second half was like, it's tough. And I know Warriors fans are going to sit there, when I say you've got to learn to deal with it, they're going to say, we deal with it every friggin' week. But unfortunately, like, if you don't deal with it, you get 2 people sent to the bin. Like, you know what I mean? If you don't go, okay, the rest are not going our way, we're getting shit calls, and you just accept the shit calls, then the only other solution is you don't deal with it and 2 people make silly decisions and the game's pretty much over as we speak. Did you think the Montoya was a 10 in the bin?
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was 50-50 on it because I didn't see it. He wasn't going to score. He wasn't going to break the line, in my opinion. But I understand because it was a professional foul.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that was the bottom line.
Yeah. Dallin Watesniak, definitely 10 in the bin. Watesniak, holy. Took his head off. Anything out in the Warriors, boys?
No.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, to sort of sum it all up, it was a really weird performance, and you sort of mentioned just probably lacked the resilience that we saw with them last year and their ability to sort of deal with on-field incidents, because they did sort of lose their way, certainly after the red-hot start. And I don't want to make excuses for them, especially when you concede 38 points, but 2 brain explosions, or like a bit of a brain explosion with Montoya, then the Dallin sin bin as well. It happens, unfortunately, but also probably was avoidable. Storm scored a couple of tries in that period, and the Warriors just sort of struggled to recover from that. There was 2 tries there. There was, I think, maybe 3 tries off kicks as well. I look at the Warriors themselves. They had like 3 or minimum 3 tries disallowed as well. There was the Jazz Tavanga one off a knock-on that was called back. Murata Niokore, he had 2 like powerhouse runs that were both called back, he was over the line as well.
Yeah.
So they weren't far off it. It's hard to look past 38 points conceded, but there's still some good signs there.
Put it this way, they're doing better than they were 4 weeks ago when you're going, holy shit. Like, we have to remember, Storm are on top of the table.
Yeah.
Like, you know, so although you don't want to leak 38 points, to lose by, 14 points to the top of the table, not too bad. Again, it's still not great, but it's not devastating by any stretch. Okay, on to the next game. Don't forget, you can watch all this rugby league on KO. Also, we're going live after Origin Game 2. Myself, Mitchell Pearce, Timmy, Matty, Hammy. We will be live on YouTube after Origin Game 2 to break the whole game. As soon as the game finishes, we'll be going live. Also on bloke.shop, we've got our maroon hoodies. Got a few left, so make sure to grab some from bloke.shop. Alrighty, Eels versus the Roosters. It was one of those games where the Roosters came out and they were up, like, I think 16-0 at one stage, and you're going, oh, fuck, here we go. The Eels are going to get absolutely blasted here. Obviously, the Eels fought their way back into it, and actually, going into half-time, they actually did really well to only be 16-6 down. They had a completion rate of 57% compared to the Roosters' 80%. And so I was actually quite impressed with their resilience in defence, and I was actually a bit surprised at the Roosters usually so cutthroat in their ability to just put teams to the sword. So going in at 16-6, I'm going, Eels are sitting there going, that's a win for us because we were pretty poor in attack. But then obviously the second half comes and Dylan Brown comes out and scores an unbelievable individual try. And I believe Brown just completely shifted momentum and showed why he's one of the best sixers in the comp when he's playing well. But in the end, it was a bit too much. The Eels couldn't catch up. And, I did feel... I felt both 10 in the bins were justified, but I did feel there was a few calls against the Roosters, especially in the second half, that were pretty rough. But they managed to get the win. Not as convincing as I probably would have thought it was after 20 minutes, but a win's a win. They got the job done. Move on next week.
Being out there live, the Roosters were so dominant at the start. I thought it was going to get really ugly. And then, you're right, mate, when they went in half-time and Parramatta was only down by 10, I went, fuck, that's a huge win they can take from that if they can score first. And then Dill Brown, what a cracking individual try for Dill Brown.
Mate, he had no right to score that try.
No right at all. And it just turned the whole momentum of the stadium. But the Roosters, they were the better side from start to finish. And I thought they were much better than a 10-point winner there.
Yeah. What do you reckon, Timmy?
Yeah, look, Roosters just too much firepower, way too classy in the end. But from an Eels perspective, the Kelmo Tuolangi Symbian at the start of the game, obviously warranted, but conceded 2 tries in that 10-minute period they were off. So they were on the back foot from the word go. And I know that Jared Waerea-Hargreaves, he went as well, and Eels scored in that period. But they were just on the back foot from the start of the game because of that. Scoreboard pressure came into it, and they fought back into it and were, an outside chance at winning the game. And they're in the contest. So good enough signs, but just a terrible way to start the game.
Yeah. And just the completion rate first half was just abysmal. So I actually think the Eels can take a lot out of this game because they showed a lot of resilience. They did not play that well, but they managed to stay in the match somehow, some way. And Roosters, I don't think they get enough credit for how much better they've been to start the year than they have been for the last 3 or 4 years. I think come finals time, they are going to be a monster to play, an absolute monster. What about Spencer Leno? I know he had 1 error, but what about his line break? And he started as well, which I thought was quite interesting. Yeah. Spencer Lenu started, and I spoke about it on, I think, Friday, maybe last week as well. But, we're forgetting that Spencer Lenu before last week had only played 2 games after the round 1 for the Roosters. He goes into Origin. He's arguably one of the best, if not the best player on the park with impact. The confidence he's going to have for the rest of the season is going to be seriously... it's going to feel like in slow motion for him because he's gone to Origin and dominated there.
And it's sort of, been lost in all the smoke, but the day before that Vegas game, they had their captain's run, and Trent Robinson was standing there talking about how he sees Spencer Lenu becoming a leader at the club and how he wants to get more minutes into him. He doesn't see him as just a bench guy moving forward. So this was always sort of part of the plan. It just obviously all derailed very quickly. But, mate, I thought starting him was really good.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see how he... the question's always been, does he have enough minutes in him to be a starter? But, yeah, I thought he was really good. And we can talk about their attack and their dominance, especially in the first half, but I actually thought their defence as well. There was a period there where they defended their asses off on the line. It ended up being that the Eels had more possession than the Roosters. So, yeah, I'm interested to see guys like Spencer Leniu, how they're going to complement. You know, he played for 54 minutes on the weekend. 54 minutes, 8 runs, 102 metres, 30 post contact, 3 tackle breaks, a line break, 23 tackles, 0 misses. That's pretty. I mean, we were unsure whether he could play 54 minutes. Like 54 minutes is enough for a front row in today's game.
Plenty.
Yeah. So good knock from him. I thought Angus Crichton was just
Handful.
destructive. Holy shit.
I think he was the difference, to be honest. And did it from centre as well. Like when Michael Jennings went off relatively early in this game, he slotted in at centre and he had those 2 try assists off offload that he had no right to do. And then scored a try, diving on a kick as well. Like, I think he was the difference in the game.
Yeah, had a few errors, but when you're impacting the game as much as he was, you can almost afford to have those errors because you've been involved in like 3 tries pretty much.
Yeah.
There was a moment after this game where standing in a group, there was JWH, there was Terrell May, Lindsay Collins, and maybe Leniu, and they were all standing together, and they were only about 10 metres away from me, and I was just looking at them going, oh my God, these guys are just
huge.
enormous. Then Daniel Tupou walked over. He's a head taller than them all. It's unbelievable.
Wild. They're just a big, explosive side. They're really one of those sides that buck the trends of smaller forward packs.
Yeah.
And it's probably because they are all so elite. What about like some of the plays that Lindsay Collins came up with in defence? Like he just does not stop.
Yeah.
Does not stop. I thought Victor Radley's try saver on Russell's. I think Russell is it?
Russell, yeah.
Russell.
To knock him out,
outstanding.
Yep.
Absolutely outstanding. I thought Teddy's ball playing had some good tip-ons, which was really good to see. 2 try assists, 206 metres, 20 runs. Like, I know in the Origin arena, he had a really good first half. Second half was not so good. But I think he's been bloody good for them this year. Like, he has really delivered what they've needed at back. He isn't taking the ball all the time, one off the rack, and he's not being too overbearing. Like, he's really taking a step back for the whole team to take a step forward.
Yeah, for sure. The other one that I like, and, we spoke about Karapani before potentially being the best, 5th choice centre wing in the side. Pauga, he's just, every time he comes in, he plays incredibly well.
Yeah, great footwork, really strong in contact for his size.
He's good.
So, yeah, look, really, really good win for the Roosters, especially when they started so well, didn't really get the results they wanted, but didn't get frustrated. They did get frustrated, but it was more with the refs' calls, obviously. Yeah. But they didn't allow it to affect their rugby league.
Didn't even put Sandon Smith on the field.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Isn't that bizarre? They had an injury to Michael Jennings. They had Sandon Smith on the bench, didn't even bother putting him on.
I mean, it just shows you the trust he has in Connor Watson.
Yeah.
Like the importance. They've got an injury. You've got Sandon Smith sitting on the bench, but you play Connor Watson for 80 minutes. He has 12 runs, 82 metres, 3 tackle breaks, 47 tackles, no errors. Just works his backside off. And I think what's really different about Connor Watson this year is that it's all high quality. There's sometimes, a few years ago, if he got through a lot of work, every now and then he'd almost work a bit too hard and get a bit fatigued and make an error here or there. But it's all high quality this year. I would love to see how he goes in fitness. He must be so friggin' fit. Yeah.
Terrell made 26 minutes. That means a big stint incoming next week against the Doggies.
Yeah, look out the Doggies. Anyone else stand out for you guys with the Roosters?
Just Tupou.
Tupou, yeah.
Yeah, he was elite.
Jeez.
Team of the week, well deserved. 200 metres, just about. Just unreal how he just keeps at that level, for so long.
And just doesn't get the raps he deserves.
No.
In a star-studded outside back line, he's almost nearly the first picked. Because he's just so consistent. Every game, he's giving you 150, 200 metres.
And, mate, if he was picked for the New South Wales Blues, I'd be so confident having him.
Yeah, absolutely. So great win for the Roosters. On to the Eels. As I said, I wouldn't be too disappointed if I was the Eels. I'd be disappointed with the way they started, for sure. Granted, they had one in the bin, but they fought really hard. They got themselves back in the match. I got to say, Will Benzini this year, he's been phenomenal. He has been phenomenal. His strength in contact, he's actually, I know he's quite nuggety, but he's not actually that big of a centre. Mate, the amount of tackles that he breaks off good defenders too, not just, nobodies. On the weekend, he had a try assist, 18 runs, 173 metres, 47 post-contact, 9 tackle breaks. He had 2 line break assists, 2 offload, 27 tackles. A mountain of work. And again, 21 years old, super young, going to develop and get even stronger year on year. I've really liked Benzini this year.
And, we always talk about, for the last 2 years that they're short an outside back or they're lacking out there. thank God he's kicked on.
Oh, yeah.
Because like he's gone from being a rookie to, in my opinion, pretty close to like an elite centre.
Yeah. Yep. This year for sure. His form-wise, he's probably not in the top tier, but he's definitely close to it.
He's in that next tier, and on his day he can compete with those top ones.
Absolutely.
If he was playing, with no disrespect to Parramatta, but a top 4 team, or if he was playing at Penrith right now, he's probably played a game of Origin just about.
Yeah, probably.
Because he's done it in a struggling team for a season and a half now. He's been one of their best.
Yeah. I thought Junior Bowler was great, really good, 160 metres, 2 tackle breaks, line break assists, 5 offloads, 14 tackles, 0 misses, 0 errors.
Man, the way that he summed up that play, just in I think it was Luke Keary that shot up. And you just see him, just like a halfback, he just goes bang, identifies it, sees it, and just.
Mate, for such a big body, his ball playing is friggin' unbelievable.
Watching him come onto the field, he was standing right in front of me, like just the sheer size of him is he's
big boy.
He's insane.
I thought Lussick came on for a period there. I thought their dummy half around the ruck there really did suffer from not having hands on. Now I don't know whether hands fatigued and that's why he came off. And I'm okay with bringing someone else on, but it did really begin to get a bit clunky when Lussick came on. And maybe that's due to reps at the moment. He hasn't been playing that much footy with Moses and Brown, but it was a little bit clunky with him coming on.
Yeah. Great to see Ryan Madison back in footy too, mate.
Yep.
Played 50-odd minutes. First time we've seen him in a couple of weeks. Good to see him back out there.
So another negative, I thought Jean Arce tries his arse off. He tries his arse off. And,
Nice.
But he had 4 errors on the weekend. And I just think that, as I said, you can never knock his effort. Just had a few errors. And same with Offen Galloway. I thought he'd been quite good for a bit, but he had 2 really, just some poor errors as well that kind of hurt them.
Yeah.
Anyone else for the Eels boys?
Dill Brown handed out his jersey to the crowd after and then walked along the stadium half naked. And, geez, he got some attention.
Oh, man. He is
You got some ideas for the CBA halftime show?
Steam coming off him everywhere. It was a lot to take in.
Oh, yeah. Okay, on to the next game. Manly defeat the Dragons 30-14. This was an absolutely outstanding win for Manly. Now, granted, a few bunker calls that we've already spoken about that were very tough on the Dragons, but that does not take away from Manly's performance. Down to essentially 13 men, 30 minutes in, maybe even more. At one stage, maybe they got up to 14 men, but they had no higher than 14 men. Managed to get the win against the Dragons. This is a really important win for Manly's season. It puts them into the 8, and they just keep hanging in. They keep in contact with where they need to keep in contact with. And hopefully Tom Trbojevic comes back. When's he due back? Around 18. So just got to hang in there for a little bit longer, and then they can strike. That's the important thing. I thought this was a really, really gutsy win from Manly. For a team that is known for its really great attack, and it still has its great attack, to show that kind of grit with essentially no bench, it could be a landmark win for their season.
For sure. They had no right to win this game of football. No right whatsoever.
No right.
They had so much. Ruben Garrick had 2 HIAs in the first half. They had to move Burbo from left back row to right centre.
They lost both front rowers.
It's insane.
They lost both front rowers within 16 minutes, and Garrick essentially, he played 23 minutes, and they overcame it.
It still scored 30 points, and Dragons only scored 14.
And for me, the reason why they overcame it is their halfback. He is just, the game's in slow motion for him at the moment.
His ability to dictate, it's the best I've seen since Cam Smith. I still have, there's other guys Joey and that before Smithy or whatever, but since Cam Smith retired, I haven't seen a half's ability to just completely individually dictate the tempo and pace of a game better than DCE.
It's incredible. Yeah, it's wild. That try that he set up for Jason Saab at the end, where he got the ball about 3 metres out, he pretty much grubbed it just straight across the dead ball line, straight across the try line, between bodies and everything. And then Saab caught the ball, and there was no one within 5 metres of him. How the fuck? How did you see that? What?
Yeah,
we've said it a lot this year, but he looks like he's genuinely getting better every week.
He is, yeah.
Actually insane.
He looks fitter every week too.
Yeah.
And it's almost like he was a little bit quiet the first 20, and then even a bit longer, he realised, oh shit, we've got our backs against the wall. I'm just going to play like I do in Origin now. You know, I'm just going to start kicking into corners. Everything's going to be perfect. Every decision I make, like let's say that every time he runs the ball, he's got 5 decisions. Every time he makes the right one. Like he's got 5 of them, but he always nails the correct. Like it is just amazing. I don't know. You know, Cam Smith said something that was really interesting. I think, Matty, you were there when he said it. But like we talked about, you know, how he improved as he got older. And he said it's because like, as a player, I never got to really rely on my physical attributes. So, you know, his mind and his footy IQ just got better and better. Whereas a lot of players, when they come into grade, they're relying on their physical attributes. And although DCE's a relatively athletic guy, but not super crazy athletic, similar situation where he's relied on his mind for so long that he's just getting better and better, smarter and smarter. He's seen everything. Like, and there's no, I guess, better way to look at it is when you watch Origin. Like he's seen everything,
And that's he has seen it all.
Yep.
There's no surprises for DCE anymore.
no bench. I know what to do. Like far out.
Yep.
I will say, and I've noticed it in some of the other games too. Manly are playing a very specific style of footy of like just end to end, like spin it from one side, spin to the other side.
Yep.
And I've noticed a few other teams doing it as well. And I wonder if that is a reaction to Penrith Panthers being obviously premiers 3 years in a row, grand finals 4 years in a row, and basically saying like, look, if we try and just replicate that style of footy, we're never going to get close to a premiership. And I wonder if a lot of teams are going, look, the only way that we can trouble the Panthers, like or teams that play like Panthers, is just do the complete opposite, which is just side to side kind of stuff. I'm not sure what the answer is to that, but I have been noticing more teams almost doing the opposite of the grindy style of footy and going, let's just go side to side, and spread them apart.
Yeah, quite possibly. I think Seabold deserves a lot of credit, mate. Big decision to make a couple of weeks ago when he had, you know, young Lehigh Opawata, he had Ruben Garrick, and he had Kohler in the side, both who have excelled at fullback. And it really surprised me when he went with Lehigh Opawata, but playing great footy.
Well, look, it just really depends on if he thinks Hopewadi is long-term fullback, then great, that's great. The only concern I have is when Tommy Trbojevic comes back, if he does put him in the centres, where do you put, you know, does Talau get dropped? Probably not. He's been outstanding. Saab's not getting dropped.
I think
Garrick, Cooler.
I think Tommy Talau probably goes and Garrick goes back to his, in my opinion, his better spot.
Okay. And if that is the case, then I like it. Well, the only question I have about it, it's not that Hopewadi hasn't played well, he has. It's more about planning for the future and getting as many minutes as possible into whoever is the next fullback up behind Tom Trbojevic. If it's Hopewadi, then it's an outstanding decision.
Yeah.
Just going to be interesting to see what they do with
How
Tommy.
they do it.
Yeah.
Well, I thought I saw something the other day about that Manly had done a lot of research into, you know, the work that goes into a centre and a fullback, and that they weren't convinced that it was going to be that much more of a workload at fullback, and it's not that different, which surprises me a hell of a lot.
That surprises me. Like,
Yeah.
I would love to see the data that they're working with.
I can't comprehend it, but they've got people far more intelligent than I am crunching these numbers, and they've got all their trackers and all that. So
Look, when I played, centres had substantially less kilometres in their leg per game than a fullback. Like, I don't know how a centre could possibly run as many Ks as a fullback would run.
how can it
But
be close?
It wouldn't be. It'd be literally Ks different. So I don't know whether they've gone Tom Trbojevic at centre, runs as much as he does at fullback, but I would love to see the data. Maybe they're going, okay, he doesn't run as many kilometres as a fullback, but he has more like intense repeat speeds, maybe, like repeat speed efforts. I'd love to see the data of that. But, you know, ironically, when saying that, Seabold said that they're considering potentially him back at centre. So, you know, whereas at the start of the year, when they were asked that same question, he was like, nah, haven't even considered it. So it is interesting to see what they're going to do there. And as I said, I'd love to see the data because it would be super interesting because, like, they've got no reason to lie. Like, why would you lie
Exactly
about
right.
that? So they must have an insight that, you know, it's just, we just don't have that insight. We just don't have that insight. Outside of that, I thought Cooler had some really good moments. I thought Talau, I think he's been really good. I think it's easily his best year of his career, and he's starting to show why he was so highly touted. I think him moving to the wing has been a blessing for his career. Nathan Brown, though, for me, mate, signing of the year, like when it comes to bang for buck, like I know Critter was probably number one, but when you take into the fact that this guy was literally probably on minimum right now, signing of the year, bang for buck.
Yeah, he'd have to be up there, wouldn't he?
And value-wise, right up there.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
He is seriously, again, we talk about it ad nauseum, but the leg speed that he brings on through the middle is exactly what the Eels lack.
Yeah.
And obviously they don't want to be doing this every single week. And I'm not sitting here saying that, Paseka hasn't had a good year or Sipley can't be a good front rower. But isn't it interesting, they lose their two big boppers and yet they still manage to win the game with smaller front rowers playing 1 minute.
Even more of a bit of an intangible, but just the impact of him coming off the back fence. As I haven't been to I don't think I've been to a Manly game this year, but that's going to get the crowd going.
Goes off.
Because everyone's like, whoa.
Except that one that he dropped.
Yeah, except for that.
Still gets the crowd going.
If you're a player, a teammate, and you see him coming off that back fence, that has to get you up and about, doesn't it?
Oh, surely.
Yeah,
surely.
On the same token there, with a couple of players going down the other day, Ethan Bullymore I thought was really good as well.
I don't know. He must be injured. I don't know. I don't know why he is not in the side more often.
Yep.
Because if you could design the body shape of the modern front rower, it's Bullymore.
Yep.
Crazy leg drive, good footwork, quick across the ground, fit as anything, really strong in contact. Same with Lawton. I think Lawton, he almost could become a front rower for him if they they've got Simpkin there that debuted. I really think that the Manly Seagulls should look to lean towards more of those. Whether they go, all right, we'll have our big boppers on, but first of all, we're going to separate them. And second of all, we're only going to put them on for 20 minutes or something like that. And then let the more mobile front rowers in their pack get through the 40-minute stints. I think that could be a recipe that could work.
I don't know if it was just because we were at Brisbane, but mate, the moment I saw Ethan Bullimore, I thought Matt Gillette straight away. The way that he plays.
Yeah, just deceptively strong in contact.
Deceptively strong, deceptively quick too. His leg speed's great. We said it last week. I'd be finding a spot for him week in, week out.
We've spoken about Olakau'atu already, but holy shit. He's got to be, every time he runs the ball, there are people skittling everywhere. He's just a nightmare. And
so excited to see Origin this week with him, and just next week, and
more minutes as well, hopefully.
Just because of how disrupted the last game was with the send-off. Hopefully him play bigger minutes and see how much he can impact this game.
Because I thought he was really good in Origin 1. I thought he was really good. Okay, now onto the Dragons. When you talk about games that slipped away, when you look back at whether they made the 8 or didn't make the 8, this will be literally game number 1. Really, really disappointing. I cannot for the life of me understand how the Dragons 1 week can look unbelievable, and the next week they get a layup. Here's the game in your hand. Here it is, right here, and they are so bizarre to watch because the games they shouldn't win, they win. The games that they should win and win convincingly because of everything that happens, they just let it go. And the game was there for them to win. Look, granted, I get it. The Kyle Flanagan one, that was 1,000,000% an obstruction. And if he throws his hands up and falls over, it's an obstruction. So I get they got some tough calls against him. You could argue it's a 12-point turnaround. At the same time, the game was still there for them to be won. They still had an opportunity to win that game. The negative is they're super inconsistent. The positive is that the problem they need to fix is literally right there. It's consistency. Once this Dragons side fixes consistency, they could be in the top 8. Absolutely be in the top 8. So really, really disappointing for the Dragons because if Manly were full strength and they beat them like this, I'd go, you know what, Manly at their best, they're a top 8 side and arguably even a top 4 side at some periods. But it's a fact that the game was right there to be won, and they've been so good, the Dragons, when you didn't expect them to be, and then when the time came, I don't know what happened. What do you reckon?
Mate, I thought that try that Kyle Flanagan scored, that was a good team try. And when he scored that try, I thought the Dragons got so much energy here, and then all the injuries started to pile up. I thought they've got to win this game of football.
Yep.
And they just... They really bottled it, didn't they? As you said, mate, that'll be one they look back on and just go, fuck, what on earth happened there?
What happened? What seriously happened there?
There was, I think Zach Lomax dropped one over the line. I mean, in saying that season flashed before their eyes. I thought his shoulder was gone when he first.
Oh, okay. Are you talking about when he went up for the catch
There was that one too, but there was before that where he dived over in the corner and I think it was Tommy Talau knocked the ball out of his hand.
Oh, yeah, that one as well. But did you think that was a knock on, the one that he caught and then he...
No, I didn't actually. I thought it was a
knock
try.
back.
Yeah.
It's gone, like, I don't understand how they got knock on there. Tough call, very tough call. Timmy, what do you think of the Dragons?
I think the most concerning thing was just that, like, it wasn't as if Manly got a lead in the first half and held on to it and gritted it out with blokes running out of steam and the fatigue setting in, having 14 available players for the large part of the game. But they were running away with it, like late tries, and I sort of thought that...
And the Dragons were ahead when they lost those
They led
players.
at half-time.
Yeah.
So you're sort of thinking, to go into the second half leading, Manly said 14 available players. I thought Manly had run out of steam. Again, it's a credit to Manly for digging as much as they did, but you just thought the Dragons would have come steaming home in this. It was the complete opposite.
Bizarre. What do you think of the Dragons?
They basically did what the Tigers did the previous week. Tigers led at halftime against the Dragons, and then just the Dragons ran all over the top of them. This is basically what happened in this game, but Manly did it to the Dragons.
Yeah.
Tough team to get a read on. I mean, they've got a bye now. They get a bit of a chance to reset, whatever, but they had everything really go their way, and you're spot on. It's one that they'll probably regret as the season goes on against 14 men. Got a bit unlucky with a couple of little bits and pieces. We spoke earlier about the Flanagan disruptor sort of situation, obstruction situation. But, pretty disappointing for the Dragons yesterday.
You know what's like crazy is they are still equal on points with Cowboys and Broncos. So they're still there. They're still there or thereabouts. Yeah. Just one of those... imagine if they win that game, they're sitting in the top 8 right now.
Yeah.
Far out, you'd be frustrated.
I'll tell you, in amongst all this chaos and unpredictability, geez, this Toby Couchman is ticking along nicely.
Yeah, much more physically strong in contact than I thought he was.
Mate, they have been, you talk to people from the Dragons, they have been ranting and raving about these Couchmans for years, and up until a few weeks ago, I really hadn't seen it. But I'm starting to see it now, especially Toby. He's a good footballer.
Yeah, so, look, one that got away for sure.
Just one bloke, before we move on. I thought Francis Molo was awesome in this.
Yeah, he was great.
Just an enforcer. Some of the shots in D he was doing, ran for over 100 metres. Despite the loss, I thought it was one of his better games.
Yeah, absolutely. Alrighty, on to the Panthers Knights. Okay, Panthers defeat the Knights 26-18. For me personally, this was a game of, did the Panthers play as well as we know they can? No, but they just squeezed the life out of the Knights. It was just, okay, the Knights started with a bang, a very uncharacteristic miss from Luai. So much so that I'd love to know, is he carrying an injury? Because that was bizarre, that miss on Fletcher Sharp. But outside of that, the Knights, it was 26-18, so close-ish to a degree, but I did feel once the Panthers kicked into gear, they just strangled the life out of them.
And the Knights bounced back with that very good 5 minutes or so, and you felt up there at Newcastle, the whole momentum started to turn, and Penrith just go, okay, we'll put the hose in your mouth now. And they just click into gear for a couple of minutes.
What kind of hose are we talking about?
But they're amazing. They just click into gear for a couple of minutes, and they can just blow you away.
Yeah, it's
like they just know when they can pull the gear.
Blow you away, hose in mouth. Jesus Christ. Roo, settle down, son. No, it's Origin footy, but you're a bit excited. No, it's so true though. They just click into gear, and they just go, we're going to apply pressure here, see if you can handle it. Most teams can't. And the Knights they literally just couldn't. Yep. And so it was one of those games where, yes, they weren't at their best. Yes, they're you can almost feel them slowly preparing for the back end of the year. But they just managed to do what they do. In regards to the Penrith side performances, we said Dylan Edwards has been a bit quiet. But when we say a bit quiet, we're saying compared to what he was doing early in the year, because he was still bloody good. He had a try, 26 runs, 278 metres, 67 post-contact, 9 tackle breaks. Isn't it interesting about, stats? We always talk about, Teddy maybe getting his hands on the ball a bit too much. But Dylan Edwards has actually been running the ball more than Teddy this year. But it's just a really good example of A, stats are not all stats are equal, not all runs are equal. But B, also, your role in the side, so for example, Dylan Edwards, he takes his touches, but it's where his team system wants him to take the touches or needs him to take the touches. Now, granted, Teddy's been really good at just taking a step back and doing it really well this year. I think he's been fantastic. But it just like we talked about so much last year about Teddy getting so many touches, but Dylan Edwards is relatively similar. But he just seems to do it in a way that suits his team system more than what the Roosters need. Yep. And I think that actually has to do a lot with the fact that because Sam Walker is so off the cuff, whereas the Penrith Panthers are so structured that it's almost set up for Dylan Edwards to have those kind of touches. But yeah,
there's such different. Couldn't be any more different systems. And you look at like Dylan Edwards, who very rarely plays down the left edge, especially when Nathan Cleary is on deck. Imagine telling James Tedesco, mate, we don't want you touching the ball on the left side of the field. He'd lose his mind.
His head explode. But the funny thing is he's been bloody good. I think he's been fantastic this year at just pulling it back a bit and ball playing a little bit more. In regards to what about Leota's break? Game was almost in the balance to a degree. Looked like the Knights had a bit of a sniff, and then Leota just goes bang.
Did it give you a bit of PTSD?
That's really low. That's really uncouth.
As soon as he went through, I just thought grand final.
Whenever you call 6 again, do you get PTSD?
Every time.
Mate, Leota just barnstorming through the middle, and it did make me reflect, like, Leota and Fisher Harris, they are a really unique front row pairing. Like, they're not massive front rowers. They're not necessarily small either, but they're super explosive and fast over that first 10 metres. Like, Leota was moving bloody quick for a big fella, like bloody quick. I thought Fisher Harris had a great game as well. Especially with Fisher Harris, because I actually thought he'd been a bit quiet to start the year, and I think he's been quite good the last few weeks. Who stood out for you boys?
I thought Scotty Sorensen came up with some really good plays in this one. There was the one where I think it might have been Dane Gagai was going into touch. He flicked the ball back in, and Jack Cogger wasn't watching. And
well, that's it's funny you say that because I literally wrote in like bold. That's the difference between the two sides. The ball was on the deck. Cogger and Sorensen both had equal time to get to it, and Sorensen won the battle.
Yeah, and you look early in the game, like he was on his line. He was injured. He was hobbling around with a peg leg. Just at no point did he not show a jersey.
Yeah.
Just it was about 3 tackles in a row. He just kept showing up. Liam Martin, mate, he didn't have the greatest stats game, which he never tends to. Jeez, he came up with some big effort plays in this game.
Yeah.
Like getting up for that ball. There was one in the in goals where he chased pretty much along the dead ball line for 50 metres. It was good, Liam Martin.
Statistically, he could be the biggest misrepresentation of form to stats in the NRL, couldn't he? Like, he ran for 49 metres in this game, but and he misses tackles like on the stat sheet and all that. Doesn't come up with a lot of tries and try assists and that, but we know he's one of the best back rowers in the game.
Well, he ran for 49 metres, and yet he's one of the first picked for New South Wales because of the intangibles that he delivers.
Yeah,
in Origin.
It's all eye test.
Imagine if any other back rower, in the Origin arena, runs for 49 minutes at club, be like, oh, that's got to increase.
Look who he's competing against. Keon Koloamatangi, Ola Kawatu, Angus Crichton. We're talking about absolute beasts that can have 11 tackle breaks, 150 metres, and yet Liam Martin's the first one picked out of all of them. Just shows you footy's more than stats. So look, Panthers are just doing such a good job. They've had a few injuries, they had a couple of halves out, some injuries to key people. They've obviously been without Cleary for a while now. They're sitting second. They've got a game in hand, so they're actually with their bye, they're actually on top of the table.
They've got 2 byes in the next month.
And so Storm have played 13 games, Panthers have played 14, and the Panthers have a better points differential, so they're actually on top of the table right now. Insane. And have they played anywhere near as good as we know they can?
Yeah.
Not even close, and they're still on top of the table.
I want to give Brad Schneider a huge rap too, mate. He's just come into this side and not only has he just played his role, but he's taken control of this team. I think he's done incredibly well. You even have a look at that game yesterday. The Knights went at him. He had to make 34 tackles.
Yeah,
Brad Schneider, and he was just in control the entire game. He's just fit in perfectly with Jerome Luai. What
about Jerome Luai at 7? I tell you what, it's got to excite you as a Tigers fan. He's been playing better at 7 than he was at 6.
Yep.
Friggin' hell. I knew he could play 7 as in all right, we need someone as a 7 and he's probably the best because he's the best player. I didn't think that he could be an actual 7,
Well, he might not get to start with. Appy's doing pretty well at 7 at the moment as well. But very excited to have the
Caesar's also kicking well.
Well, what we love at the Tigers is competition for spots next year. Very excited to have him on board. He's been playing very well.
Toto once again with fucking just fuck off. 21 runs, 239 metres, 82 post contact, 6 tackle breaks, a line break, 8 tackles, only 1 miss. He's outstanding. Great stuff. Great stuff. And the Panthers continuing to show why they are so dominant. Now, onto the Knights. I actually thought it was a good performance from the Knights. I actually thought, like, if you're going to get beaten by the Panthers, who are essentially on top of the table, 26-18, like, and they did put the squeeze on the Knights, and they hung in there, and there was a period where the Knights showed a lot of fight and looked like they might have been getting back into the game. I actually thought Hastings had a really good second half. I'd be pretty happy if I was the Knights, to be honest.
I think it was Cooper Cronk that said it during the telecast, and I couldn't believe it. They weren't doing it. I had to get Bradman Best more ball. Especially down there in the red zone. Like that, the Panthers' right edge has been leaking points religiously the last few weeks.
Well, they did in the second half to a degree, and he started making line breaks and shit.
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like they had to get Bradman more ball down there.
Because he had 18 runs, 209 metres, 67 post contact, 14 tackles, 4 misses.
Greg Marshew really came to life in the second half as well. He'd been pretty quiet in the lead up to that, and I just thought that was a spot that they'd go at more. There was a play where Jacko put Lucas through for a great try, and then they actually had him out the back on the next play, and he went short. He knocked the ball on into contact, and it sort of just slowed their momentum in that moment.
Hasn't Dylan Lucas been bloody good? He's been outstanding for the Knights.
Versatile as well.
Back rower. Just super, like a fast back rower, but at the same time, he's actually put quite a bit of muscle mass on. Had a try, 12 runs, 124 metres, 28 post contact.
A winger in the local comp not long ago.
No way. I think Dylan Lucas has been outstanding for him. I thought Jackson Hastings was much better in attack.
Yep.
I think he showed, like, he'd been so structured and almost too structured for the last few weeks. In saying that, they were good against the Storm. I thought this week he did open it up a little bit and add a bit of flair.
He had a kick off the scrum or off a tap on like the first or second tackle.
Badman
best,
was it?
Yeah, I thought he showed. You got to take a few chances if you want to beat the Panthers, and he certainly had a crack.
Yep. Who stood out for you, Timmy?
Just firstly on the Knights in general, if you're going to beat the Penrith Panthers, you kind of need to hope they have even the slightest of an off day or do a few things wrong. Like, the Knights came and completed 88%. It was 20-18 in this game with over 20 minutes to go. Unfortunately, Penrith came out and completed 92%. Like, you kind of done a heap more. They're right in this game, so they take a lot from the performance. Just seeing why there were so many raps around Fletcher Sharp and why he's come in, and David Armstrong, who was impressive as well in a few games, played wing in New South Wales Cup. So all the talk going into when Ponga was injured was that it was going to be Fletcher Sharp, and even as uncharacteristic as that miss was from Jerome Luai, Fletcher Sharp stood it, but not many other footballers do, and that's run through Jerome Luai. So
and step Dylan Edwards as well.
Yeah, he looks the goods.
Yeah. So as I said, like, I think there's you're playing against a Penrith side that completes at 92%, and although I felt like Penrith were pretty much in control, it was still, they were in the game still. They weren't, completely out of it. So I think there's a lot to take away from the Knights. That is much better than a couple of weeks ago, like way better than a couple of weeks ago. You're losing 26-18 to the 3-time premiers. I'll take that. Yeah, I'll take that any day of the week.
Without your best player, I mean, Penrith were too, but...
Worth noting too, David Armstrong returned in New South Wales Cup, played on the wing.
Do you reckon he's like, do you ever listen to a thing like
Oh, sorry, I was looking for the stat. And the answer to that is no.
Matty last week, you this week. I may as well just talk to myself. Like,
that's good stuff. Alrighty. Okay, let's get to our tips. Face the music, baby. Let's go. Let's do it. Let's go.
I apologise.
All right.
Let's go. Let's do it. Let's go.
Let's do it. All right, Friday, 5 games this week. We kick off Dolphins, $2.35. Host the Storm, $1.60. 3.5's the line.
I'm going Storm.
Storm Dolphins.
Jeez, 3.5. Canal Root, it's a big call.
Origin outs. Harry Grant's out. Does Mario?
Storm, mate. I've given my selection, mate.
Storm Dolphins.
Yours.
Storm.
Dolphins head-to-head for me. Saturday, 3 p.m. Gold Coast Titans, $2.54. Warriors, $1.52. Line, 4.5 points.
Warriors.
Warriors Titans.
Oh, he's getting cute with his... He thinks he's fucking mad.
What a drive-by.
Oh, that's great.
I like it. Warriors.
I'm tipping Titans. Titans.
Jeez. Warriors for me as well. Then we got the Roosters, $1.32. Dogs, $3.41. Line, 9.5 points in that one.
This is tough because the Doggies fucking put it on them last time they played. They got Burton back. I'm going to go Roosters, but Bulldogs with the start.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm going Roosters, dog start.
Yeah, Roosters Dogs start, but huge odds for Dogs. Jeez.
I'm going to tip Bulldogs.
Ooh.
Roosters have like half their team out as well.
They were 450 before New South Wales side was announced. They had Burton.
God.
Huge. Chooks Dogs for me as well. Then we got the Rabbitohs, $1.56. Manly, $2.43. Line is 4.5 points.
Yeah, Rabbits.
Yep.
This is tough. What? No Latrell, no Cam Murray.
Could be fatigued from last week. It's such a big win from me.
No Ches, no Olaquatu, no Garrick. Ugh.
And Sipley went off with a knee
Seka,
injury.
both could be out.
Waddell didn't look good.
We'll start.
4.5.
I'll go Bunnies with a Manly start.
Yep.
I'll go Bunnies.
South.
Bunnies Manly for me. And then to bring it home, the Goodman-Williams Cup. Tigers, $2.30.
Sunday, 4:05, Tigers versus Raiders.
Out of the ninth wonder as well, out of Campbelltown. Tigers, $2.30. Raiders, $1.62. Line, 3.5 points.
Raiders.
Raiders.
I will go Raiders, Tigers.
Ooh.
Raiders to win, Tigers to cover.
Tigers.
Tigers head-to-head for me as well. Get around us on the feed. Origin, of course, coming up next week. Best place to find all of Denon's bets, also my bets leading into the biggest game of the year, is on the feed. So get around us, give us a
Join 14,000 other people that are following us on the feed, and also join Hammy. Follow him because he's a big cricket guy. So you're going to get some cricket tips.
So are
there.
you?
You're going to, well, yeah, I am, but I show respect to the people that come before me. You're going to get rugby league tips. You're going to get rugby league tips on my feed and some Origin. Oh, and the Bloke in the Bar Origin multi as well. It's 10 days away, so we've got some time to do that.
We do.
But we'll get that probably before Thursday.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think as soon as teams go out tomorrow as well, we'll get our
Bloke in the Bar multi,
round
yeah.
16 ones out as well. Yeah.
Okay, that's us done and dusted. Don't forget, Origin live show straight after the game. We're going live on YouTube, and then we'll put it up on audios after, as usual. Oh, also, don't forget the CBA Cup. Also, don't forget, new website. What do you want to forget? All right, that was awesome.
And give me something. Get around that.
We'll go fuck ourselves. Thank you.
What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.